Good afternoon and welcome into the SPL. Finch here, joined by Goremizer. And guys, I'm excited for the games that we've got lined up today. I mean, the SPL so far has been about the most competitive state that I've ever seen it at, Goremizer. I really don't see any reason why it's going to slow down. Sounds like you might not be coming through, but don't worry about it, though. I'll carry things on here for us. Let's take a look at this schedule up here first. These were some of the other ones, the other games that we were looking at. You saw the Knights had the win up against United, as well as Space Station had that win up against Rival. And we are about to see this game here between Obey and Radiance, or not Radiance, Renegades, excuse me, everybody. That's starting us off here today. And I know that people are a bit down on Obey here lately. They have been struggling, but I think that they have been improving coming into this set here, Goremizer. So even though that they've had some struggles and Renegades are kind of on the up after their big win up against Radiance, I do still think that this is a set that can be close and competitive.
Yeah, that was actually the biggest thing for me. I was looking for literally any stat that could give me a reason to justify the fact that I think this is going to be close, because when you look at what Obey has been doing, their improvements over the last few weeks, it genuinely has been nothing but them rising up to the top, right? I mean, or at least to the occasion as they come through. They've been getting better every single time they play, but none of the numbers really reflect how much better they are than that first performance we saw out of them. And so I think they can still give the Renegades a run for their money. Do I think it's going to equate them their first win? I don't know if I'd go that far just yet, but I do think that there's some merit to what Obey has been able to do in these last few weeks, and you have to kind of look at that. They haven't found as many kills. They are the lowest farm team in the SPL right now with an average of 469 gold per minute across their players, but it's still just, I would argue what they've been able to do with that turnaround, because let's face it, especially like if you look at those night sets from week 2, a lot of the games they've had were not necessarily the best, so you have to take some of it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of it with that grain of salt. Again, we want to mention this should be Weekend's last game here with Obey. As far as everything that we know, he's already announced that he's planning on stepping down from the SPL here for a while, and they're still searching for that jungler replacement to go into those next set of games next week. And so that means that in this game, I still think that 3v3 core is really the issue for me here at Goremizer. I need to see Weekend, Wlfy, and Inbowned playing a little bit better here as a unit, being able to make sure they keep themselves close and relevant. That way that Wowy and Ducky aren't struggling and falling behind. I mean, a lot of the times, there's really not even anywhere for Weekend to go because those side lanes are already struggling or because they've fallen so far behind in a 3v3. I think it would improve everyone on the team a little bit if they can keep that 3v3 competitive, and then maybe they can look for some influence on some of those side lanes.
I'm curious to see what these teams are going to do to maybe take control of that, because like you said, at least in my eyes, the Weekend, Wlfy, Inbound trio hasn't necessarily had that much control, and when I look at the top picks for both of these teams, they're more focused on the Hunter. I mean, Onher, Hu Yi are both in the top 3 gods picked for Obey across the last few weeks, so they have a lot of pressure maybe pushed onto Wowy to kind of come in and be this carry, but there's only so much you can do from the side lane, especially early on. If the rest of the team starts to fall behind, maybe you can swing some late game fights, but if you're falling behind on your own, over there, it's not necessarily going to open you up to be the team's carry. They had mentioned very early on wanting to play through Wlfy. Weekend definitely needs to be able to step up to the plate. That's where my eyes are right now. The jungle, the mid lane, how those two can work, and what they can do to stop themselves from falling behind early.
And then their opponents on the other side not making life much easier for them, right? They're going to be playing up against the Renegades, who are surging here now lately. And even before they started actually getting those W's up on the scoreboard, they were still playing really well around Lasbra in particular. He's having one of those big breakout seasons, I would say, here at Goremizer. Remember how it was from last year? They put him in like the mid lane, I believe, at the beginning. He was off role and not looking like himself, even when he came back to jungle. But we knew this guy had this kind of potential in him that we're starting to see from him this year.
So coming into this week, or I guess actually including their games on Friday, Lasbra has on his own been able to get 59 kills. Like he is absolutely making a difference. But I will say a lot of the slowdown that we've seen from Renegades has been if Lasbra hasn't shown up early on, right? It depends on where he is.
Yeah, they're 2-1.
I would argue for those first like 15, 20 minutes, well, that's a good portion of the game. But realistically, if he's not there for the first 10, then the team starts to fall behind, and you can feel the pace slow down from Renegades. Whereas once he picks it up, everything seems to fall into line for the rest of them. They very much rely on their jungler.
They do. I think maybe at times too much they rely on their jungler, to be honest. And to be fair, I think this is a squad that has, you know, some role players on. I say that about Venenu a lot. BaRRaCCuDDa can make big plays, but I don't think that they play through him that often either. A lot of the time for this roster, it comes down to Lasbra's play. At the end of the game, 37 minutes in, they're waiting on him to find a big Fear No Evil or a big Pele ult or something like that. It's a lot they put on that one guy. We have talked a lot about Lasbra, but it's time for you to hear a little bit from the man himself. Here's the interview we had with Lasbra a little bit earlier. Well, I am here with Lasbra, jungler for the Renegades, and obviously having a really sick year. But I got to ask you here, first things first, man, about your set win up against Radiance that you all got just a little while ago. I mean, I don't think a lot of people were expecting you all to win. Talk to me about what you all saw going in, and you knew we'd get the victory, and what does it mean for you now that you guys got it?
Yeah, I felt really good to get a victory for sure. We prepared a lot for them because, like, they feel like, not to say that none of the teams are respectable, but I think they're like one of the most respectable teams and one of the teams at the top, right? So we had to do our homework. Shout out to Ro for that. Pick and bans. We're pretty happy with that. Obviously, lost game 1. Looked pretty rough for us. We tried out a new start. Didn't work as well as we think we would, but in game 2 and 3 it was like alright, but in game 1 we get the first part, but then we go for the second invade. Didn't turn out to be that good, but yeah, it was alright, I guess. Really nice to get that win.
Well, do you want to talk to me some about that early game pressure? I mean, you all was it just a conscious decision to try and take the long lane out of the game, or was that team specific, or is that something you guys have been looking to do more of going forward?
I guess it just depends on the game and what we're feeling. There's like a few different starts you can do right now, so that's really nice because then the team doesn't know what you're gonna do, right? It doesn't really matter what picks we have. Even if we have pressure picks, we can do what we want. So I don't think anybody should expect us to be doing the same start over and over again.
Well, you all are going to be going up against Obey for this next set. And I know that they've struggled up until now, but I think that they've looked better this last week or so. What's your preparation for them been like, and what's a way that you all can help make sure that you get this win, even though it's expected that you'll win?
Yeah, for sure. They're looking way better. They're improving. I mean, I already think there's good players on that team, and they have Cassia as coach. I used to work with him on Exignum. I worked with him on Obey. I was on Trifecta, right? But Obey now. So I played with most of the players on that team. So I think they're like really good. But overall, I don't think they really have an identity yet. Looking at pick and bans, they have like a lot of picks and it's like pretty confusing to look at. So I think what we're gonna look to do is just like do our stuff, go in with our plan, and then see how they adapt to that.
You're going to give me a little bit more Pele, Lasbra. You've been really popping off on that one lately. Do I get to see a little bit more of that?
Maybe.
Maybe. We'll see. Well, thanks for taking the time to talk with me, man. I always appreciate the chance to hear from you, Lasbra. Good luck in your next match.
Thank you.
Well, you hear Lasbra maybe being a bit coy about playing the Pele, but I don't know. I got a feeling we might end up seeing what is quickly becoming one of his signature picks. And Gore, you heard him talk a little bit about it. One of the things about Obey is that because they don't really have that identity ironed out, it can be a bit hard to prep for them, to know what they're going to be doing in picks and bans, because it kind of feels like they can just come in and do what they feel like is best that day, since they're not necessarily locked in.
Well, it's actually interesting to think about it that way because, you know, you look at, I mean, even here with Renegades, right? Hey, I know if I ban out Pele, like, I'm not going to do that in every game, but I know that targets someone like Lasbra. If I'm going against the Knights, Hell and Hebo all of a sudden show up in my bans. Most of these teams have, like, their picks, something that they are good at and that they can identify with. I can't think of anything. If I'm Obey, like, where am I going? Hunbats comes to my mind, Thor, but I mean, those are top junglers anyway. I think if you can control the jungle, then it makes it a lot easier for you, but realistically here, I agree with that sentiment that it's going to be a little difficult to lock them down.
Well, we can go ahead and start getting ready then for those picks and bans that we just talked about. Might be a bit difficult for Renegades to truly navigate the way that they might have been used to when they were playing up against Radiance. I mean, that felt like the big difference maker to me was that Ro came in with a game plan from those guys. You saw it for game number 1. It was pressure out that long lane. It didn't quite work the first time around, but that second and third game, it really did work better for them. They were able to get that King Arthur for the solo lane as well and get a lot going off of that. So I wonder if Renegades are going to try to replicate that same thing. They went to the side lanes for pressure when they got the win up against Radiance. We might see that same thing happen here up against Obey.
And honestly, it's with Lasbra being able to maybe control the jungle here, based on the way we've seen these starts going. Him and Weaken both have a very similar, like if they get off way too slow, then the entire game tends to fall apart. But if Lasbra can get a little bit ahead there, it becomes so much easier to gain that pressure on the side lanes. And I think they recognize they need that pressure more than anything. I mean, Sobek doesn't get banned out just because you don't think you want to deal with the Flux. It's because he brings so much potency over there to the solo lane that you have to shut him down.
No reason not to. It can be hard to punish in lane as well, so I don't mind this ban. Not a lot of the toppest tier stuff, though, getting banned out, though, right? Like things like the Emoja that sort of come to mind still out there on the table. Aphrodite has been getting a lot more play, too, but, you know, you'd be thinking that you want to ban away Camazotz, maybe, something like that. Instead, they're banning away the Rulers and the tiers of the world because you got to worry about Awesome Jake.
Well, it's the biggest thing. It's been, this is the longest I think I've talked about Renegades without saying Awesome Jake's name, and admittedly it was maybe because it's better to keep him in the box while you can, because he's going to make sure his name is heard throughout the game. The duo lane control that Renegades are going to be able to bring, it might even play against it. Inbound likes to play aggressive on Obey, and I feel like Renegades not only are going to be able to recognize that with like a Hercules ban, but they might be able to turn it on its head and cause a lot of trouble for the duo lane and Obey and shut Wowy down because of it and end up kind of turning that aggression on its head.
So it will be the Thor ban as that final one for Renegades, so that does leave quite a bit of quality still here on the table. So where do Renegades want to go? And it looks like it will be the Horus. So it is still going to be Awesome Jake focused, but maybe not some of the extra shenanigans you might be used to associating with him. This Horus pick, fairly standard, gives a ton of ability to rotate around the map. That's something that United has done very well. We'll see if Renegades can match that same pace.
I'm actually excited to see how much Camazotz we've had this week, because going into week 5, Camazotz was the most banned god in the SPL. Like, he was just ahead of Persephone by 2, but he was more banned than anybody else. And the fact that this week I've seen him almost, well, not every game, but especially considering yesterday and today, he's gotten through and just been able to control the pace a little bit more. I wonder if Renegades have a good way to deal with him, because if you can't control Camazotz, he can almost carry the game on his own. If Obey can get it in the right area, whether it's solo, whether it's jungle, since we've seen him do both, he could take control of this and make this much more difficult for Renegades than it needs to be.
Camazotz can struggle sometimes, though, so it certainly is beatable. It's just a question of, as you said,
yes,
you know, are you itemizing around? Are you focusing him? Can you slow him down? They're going to pair Merlin with that, a top-tier mid-lane pick right now, and Renegades in response grab probably the next one down in Raijin Discordia on that list as well, but no need to go that far. I do think it's worth noting that since the Emoja's not been picked yet, it could still be coming through next here for Obey. Since they knew Horus was picked up, maybe they weren't worried about that Guardian already being taken.
Yeah, I think both of these teams, especially at this point, don't have to stress too much about it. Although Obey, I don't know how I feel about Emoja still. And it's one of those weird things, because in a lot of the top games, she, like, depending on who is playing her, she looks really good sometimes. Depending on who is playing her, she looks really bad sometimes. It really is player performance. And I don't know how well she fits into Inbound's playstyle and the way Obey have been able to kind of shoe her in. I mean, we were looking at it, a lot of the games she had when we were looking at her, 30% win rate, I believe, at the time, last week.
Yeah, she struggled.
A lot of them were picked up by, you know, like, Obey. There were some games, I believe, not necessarily Renegades, but in the bottom 3 where players were picking them up. And that kind of lends itself to a negative trending win rate. And then you see teams like Radiance maybe pick her up, and all of a sudden she starts to look a little better. So Obey, I kind of want them to find their style here, much like Renegades was saying they don't necessarily have one. Get something that feels more like you.
Well, Obey elect not to pick the Yemoja, and so now it is banned. They grabbed the Hou-Yi in that spot, and Hou-Yi is strong right now. He has plenty of boxing potential. The Sun ultimate, the Sunbreaker ultimate gives him tons of sort of AoE potential and space denial as well. But I'm wondering if maybe this Yemoja was worth grabbing in that spot. I think you already talked about it, though. Maybe that's just not Inbound style. I mean, we've seen him go down to Fafnir support and things like that here at the SPL level, so maybe he wants to be a bit more aggressive where he can get his hands dirty.
It's one of those down there you see bans against Obey, and the number 3 is Serqet. And, well, that is just because, well, guess where that's going? It's in your duo lane. It's not always going to be Weaken coming through. It can provide some control over there as well. It's not something I expect to see maybe as often. It does kind of depend. I mean, against Horus, you could maybe abuse his lower health pool early on, the fact that he doesn't have quite the same scaling as like a Guardian, so maybe you could pick on him and Jing a little harder early on. So aggression could get turned on its head, but then you have to think, oh, well, he's got a lot of CC, he's got a heal, he's got protection shred. You got to be really careful with how aggressive you get specifically against that duo lane.
And if you want to talk a bit about like pick and ban strategy, let's say Obey never planned on picking Yemoja, then grabbing the Hou-Yi really works out there, right? Because you force Renegades to ban the Yemoja in their second ban phase, and then you get a more likely chance to get either a priority jungler or a priority support, whichever one it is that you want. And that's what the Serqet's doing too. It can flex a little bit between both of those spots. It can either go to Inbound or to Weaken, and even still, Renegades don't quite know what they're up against.
I also think it helps play kind of a double role because Serqet has some pretty strong anti-heal in her kit. She's really good at helping deal with Camazotz. If you can strip that away from Renegades and give yourself a little bit of a bonus, a comfort pick, if you will, for Obey, you're playing both sides.
I thought we might be seeing Nike jungle again here for Renegades with that Ratatoskr locked in. I'm thinking that Nike's going to be for SOT instead. Rat will be in the jungle for some early pressure for Lasbra. I don't think we've seen him play a lot of Rat, but it does let him get involved early like he likes to do.
Yeah, I like Ratatoskr. I think his initiation to be able to get into a fight is going to be good, and it's actually something this team needs a little bit. Horus, you can use that ult to get in, but sometimes you want it to get out just as well. I think Rat can maybe help be the second for him.
Well, can Renegades maintain their momentum, or will Obey find that first W? Let's find out with Game 1.
Always appreciated. Finch and Gormizer, Dulcin and Mifflin will take you through set number 1 here on Sunday. And Mifflin, the variety, I feel like, in picks and bans just kind of continues here this week with Nike. Probably played once prior to this. Now another Nike pickup, Lasbra on the Ratatoskr as well. I love seeing kind of the shift up and a change in mentality where kind of anything seems to be viable.
It seems like players are just playing whatever they want. It's not really even just competing. Now these guys are just having a little bit of fun. Lasbra on this Ratatoskr, I think, is incredibly interesting. It's going to give him a lot of aggression into that duo lane. He's got very good follow-up from the CC from Jake. There's a lot of ways that this Rat can get involved incredibly early on, and its itemization is very easy to go through. You can get that Acorn online, then you immediately go into either CDR or anti-heal. The slow is going to be very potent in the early game ganks. If we do see a level 2 rotation towards the red right now, that's exactly what Rat's going to do.
And how often have we seen this? He's rotating over, he being Lasbra, and there's so much pressure already in the long lane that it puts Inbound and Wowy in such an awkward spot. Lasbra is now here over by the purple buff. Inbound does have that leap to get away. Maybe this is around this Horus lane, what we've come to expect in the long lane, Lasbra playing smartly off it. It seems like when you're playing against a Horus and a Jing especially, talk about double knockup, your purple buffs are just kind of forfeit here in the early game.
Certainly, especially considering the rotation path we saw from Lasbra there, immediately going into the red buff, forces Merlin back there, then gets to rotate into his own purple to just stop any sort of aggression, forces Inbound to take the jump early on, which means that his lane potential, his clear potential, is way lower. I like what we saw from Weaken, though. Immediately he recognizes that Lasbra is trying to play up in his jungle, so Weaken tries to spot out the speed buff, maybe steal some back camps, but fortunately, Renegades accounted for that and had already cleared them out.
Well, there's always going to be kill pressure in that long lane. Weaken now making his way over to that solo lane. And I think that'll be a fun matchup to watch as well. Ducky, you know, you look at the gods that he's played recently, a lot of Yorman, Gondor, Osiris, a lot of gods kind of in that tanky category. And now he's kind of taking a different route here with that Camazotz. I'm wondering how this lane will look, especially up against SOT on that Nike. Another god that, honestly, we don't see all that often.
especially in the solo lane. We've seen Nike exactly once this year, and that was out of the jungle. But solo is really where she's going to find her stride. That passive is going to build up a little bit easier. She has more minions to clear, truly, just waves walking at her. But that matchup is interesting. There's going to be a huge drop-off in kill potential for Ducky. The second that Nike hits level 5, SOT can shift his focus towards playing slowly, just farming it out, waiting for the late-game passive, and just use his ultimate to survive any situation. But by the same note, Ducky's going to have a lot easier time clearing out waves, proxying, and he's not going to have to worry about truly getting killed himself by a Nike. We might see these two start rotating out of that solo lane a lot earlier on.
Well, that's a dash forward from Jake and won't result in the kill, but it's a pretty good magnifying glass on just what we expect to see over here. And you sort of talk about early game kill pressure, and I think Renegades are a team that's starting to find their identity. I think Ro has done a fantastic job of kind of coaching these guys up. Obey, in the meantime, luckily able to snag a purple buff finally. But I'm expecting maybe early game pressure here from Lasbra. Guys had really a standout start, and Obey, maybe a team that Lasbra seems to think. We talked to him in the pregame. Lasbra sort of feeling, I don't know if Obey has that identity yet. Do you think that this is a Renegades team that'll look to maybe punish Obey here early on?
Certainly, the second Lasbra hits level 5, his kill potential goes through the roof, especially considering they have an aggressive dual lane Renegades, that is, who's been able to force Wowy back constantly like we're seeing. If Lasbra decides to go over there after forcing out Inbound's jump or after Wowy is forced to use his, Lasbra's already level 5, they're level 3. That's huge gank potential. We see him waiting for it now. The second that Lasbra goes in the air, Renegades are going to have to aggress.
Through the Cosmos, down he slams. A nice double jump out, though, from Obey. Might just save their lives. Wow, he's taking so much damage. A shell may have just saved the Huyi's life. But early presence from Renegades, maybe now countered out by Obey. Weaken will blink his way forward. Wlfy has rotated and found the first blood in this game. What a rotation from Obey, and they strike first.
That was a heads-up play from Obey, but maybe even a slight misplay from Lasbra. He went in as the initiation factor. That's not the worst-case scenario, but he did go in before his team was even in range to follow up. We saw that he finds the dunk, immediately gets evaded by the jumps, and then he gets kited all the way to that tier 1 tower by beads, by shell getting dropped by the entirety of Obey's duo lane. And the entire time, maybe BaRRaCCuDDa landed 3 auto attacks simply because Lasbra engaged before those waves met up. Right. Had he waited for Jake to move up, force out a jump himself, it might have gone a lot easier.
Well, Lasbra, realizing that Wowy's beads are now down, will return over to the long lane, and that's a free kill for the Ratatoskr. Inbound now on retreat. No rotation from Obey to save him this time around. Still has the leap, so that will maybe get him out safely. He aggroes the Gold Fury, but won't kill him off this time around. And I love that from Lasbra. You realize you burned so many actives from Obey. Only the beads of Wlfy still up after that first rotation. So let's just go right back to the long lane.
And he could continue to do so. I mean, if at first you don't succeed, try again. He forces the kill. Now Jake getting a little bit aggressive
on the tower. Woo! Oh my, nearly gets the kill. Inch of his life underneath the tier 1 tower. Lasbra wants some more, though. There are the beads from Wlfy finally used. And Inbound and Wlfy will both survive. But it's the intangible, the TKO, as we sometimes put it. They are out of the game now for the next few seconds. That opens up the door for Lasbra to continue to wreak havoc on this backside jungle over here for Obey. Returning down to Wowy, still 45 seconds left on those Huyi beads. Stun is down onto Lasbra. Jake is there with the dash, and that's all she wrote. But you're not going to get comfortable here, it seems, if you're Obey in this long lane.
Certainly not, and they got their purple buff stripped away again. Now Merlin doesn't have his beads either, so he has to be cognizant of the Ratatoskr gank. If we see Merlin try and counter-rotate into the jungle again, he could very easily become a target himself. This Renegades roster is putting so much pressure into this long lane, but meanwhile, Solo's on a complete island.
Awesome. Jake will be able to dash right back to his hunter, so I don't imagine he ends up falling down there. I feel like we've seen this story, though, before, Mifflin, and this is absolutely not an area where I'm ready to write Obey off, but, you know, just sort of we've seen Obey get out to these first bloods. They end up trading, you know, 1 for none, 2 for 1 on the disadvantageous side a few times throughout this year. If you're looking at Obey now, I mean, this game is effectively even. You got first blood. Where do you maybe look to make an impact on this one? Because we've seen what Lasbra wants to do. Let's return to this long lane a few times. What do you want to see from the rest of Obey as far as giving themselves more of a foothold here in this one?
Well, if you look at Obey's team right now, the only players with even a remote lead are Weekend and Wlfy. I think that's the perfect place to start getting involved in the game. Weekend's been farming up, having a good time in the jungle, hasn't had to match Lasbra's pressure just yet. Wlfy's the beneficiary of a good counter rotation, so he pulls a slight XP lead himself. If they start to rotate in and try and put the pressure onto Venenu, that's going to be very easy for them to do. They could very easily catch out this Raijin on the rotation, maybe force them on the fight on purple buff, but instead, it seems like they're going to let their purple slide away one more time. Weekend's going to need to get involved a little bit sooner than he seems to be willing to at this point. He's just farming up right now, but he has insane kill potential, and with the aggression we're seeing from Renegades, he's got plenty of targets to try and aggress onto.
Well, there was a rotation, as you pointed out, from Venenu over to that long lane side, but looked like literally one ward from Obey and maybe Vision Shard on the side protected them there. Jake getting aggressive. Wowy taking so much damage. Up and over goes BaRRaCCuDDa, but he's not able to finish off the kill. Wowy has turned this one around. BaRRaCCuDDa looking a little bit worse for wear as well. Lasbra into the Cosmos, but that'll just be to get a little bit closer to the purple buff. It's an engage gone wrong, but maybe what we expect from Awesome Jake, getting aggressive underneath that tower.
It seems like Renegades, they really do just want to play on the enemy tower line, but their picks don't really match that playstyle. They do have very good kill confirm. They have fantastic CC chain with a double knockup, but Jingwei's not the most aggressive pick in the world. We saw that Lasbra went in the air there. It looked like he might be looking to clean up Wowy or even inbound, but he noticed the rotation.
Awesome Jake blinks through once more. Venenu here to fight. Weekend will sidestep a few of the Taiko drum shot. BaRRaCCuDDa has returned. And that's Jake drop shipping the rest of Renegades back behind a couple members of Obey here. BaRRaCCuDDa's continuing his onslaught. Dash forward from Ven. Body blocks from Inbound will save Wlfy, but just for a moment as Awesome Jake will move forward and Lasbra's rotated elsewhere to put down Wowy. And this is what I'm talking about. Obey get themselves a kill, and then a few moments later, Renegades pull this early game right back.
And it's exactly where it's been happening the entirety of the match. It's that duo lane focus. Obey just rotate in a little bit too early. Weekend gets caught out slightly by Ven's rotation. Now, what was a clean 3-kill lead for Renegades is now 2. 4-2 is the scoreboard, but Gold Fury goes their way. And this is the first lead we're going to see this game. But now that Gold Fury's down, I imagine we see the Renegades try and shift the focus, maybe try and stop Ducky from farming up a little bit. They've already taken the neutral objective there. The only real place they can go this early in the game is the Pyromancer.
That's a great point you bring up there, because I do kind of want to touch on Ducky just for a moment. I mean, the Camazotz, we've seen a lot of strategies kind of form around how to play into it, how to play against it. I mean, it seems like if you can survive the early game without Camazotz having a whole bunch of kills under his belt, you've done your job. Are you at all concerned, though, and maybe Renegades will be, just kind of that passive standard scaling, even in a solo lane that's been left alone largely as it has here for Obey, that Ducky's going to be a menace once rotation time comes around, even if he leaves that lane at 000s?
I think you really do have to be cognizant of Ducky's rotations, especially considering he has the level lead already 10 minutes into the game, but he's one of the least rotation-heavy solo laners in the league. He really likes to bring his pressure to the lane, force people to come to him. If he does rotate out now, it would be the best time for it, simply because Nike hasn't got her passive stacked up yet, so he's going to bring more no matter where he goes, no matter at what time, but he is on a slight timer. If he sits in that lane and doesn't either take the tower or start soloing out this Nike, SoloOrTroll is just going to passively be a bigger boon for his team than an ahead Camazotz would be.
Well, watch out for this rotation. Ducky senses it, moves away. Now kind of on the flip side of the coin, maybe interesting build for SOT here. He's gone Talaria Boots into that Relic Dagger. Does that kind of maybe tell you that SOT is looking to rotate quicker, earlier, more often, and get engaged in these fights?
It seems like he's trying to get ready to start teleporting over to Gold Fury if it's ever required, then he'll have it back up almost instantly. The second he hits level 12, we'll get to see what sort of relic he picks up to leverage that as well. He could look for a defensive support-esque relic, or he could even look for Thorns. He's got plenty of options, but that movement speed build means that he doesn't really care about how this lane goes. He's playing for the team fight. He's playing for the rest of the game.
There's a skirmish over by purple here and won't result in really anything, as BaRRaCCuDDa is able to sneak away one more from the Obey Alliance duo lane. Sort of calmed down here now over the last couple of minutes. Lasbra maybe slowed down after a 2-0 start, and And maybe at this point in the game, and I like this, actually don't mind this from the Renegades. It's a team that's been able to find these kills and some early game advantages, excuse me. But they don't seem to be wanting to push the issue that much. Take the right fights instead of any fight, you know?
As you say that, though, Jake diving into the tower and takes any fight that comes his way. But that's what's going to happen. BaRRaCCuDDa's, what, 3-2 levels up already, 12 minutes into the game? They're afforded that opportunity, and if they do take some poke from the tower, who cares? The 408's got heals in the kit. It's really on Weekend to start rotating in and abuse this aggressive positioning from the Renegades, and it seems like that's what's going to happen.
Now Weekend finally rotating to this long lane. Decent Sunbreaker down will chip away some damage, but Weekend wants some more. He's immediately stunned down by Jake. Airstrike through from BaRRaCCuDDa will find the execute as Weekend returns to the black and gray screen for the next 28 seconds. And Jake was looking for a little extra on Wlfy as well. I suppose that's on me. I'm saying they're taking the right fight instead of any fight, but it's Jake on a tower line on a Horus. You seem to have to expect that as Lasbra will now rotate his way over. Stunned down onto the Ratatoskr. Jake blinks through, misses the dash. Wlfy, though, uses the bead, so wouldn't have stunned down anyway. Into the Cosmos is up. Where will Lasbra drop down? It's elsewhere. Off to the red buff side he goes. It's another couple of kills for the Renegades.
But Ducky's on this side of the map, and he tries to engage onto Ven. The chase is on.
Yeah, now we're starting to see the solo laners rotate on through. Awesome Jake looking for some body blocks from BaRRaCCuDDa, and he's got him. Wlfy into the dirt once more. Wlfy, though, another good rotation. Will grab the second kill of the game for this Merlin. Renegades maybe sensing they're a bit pinched in here as Obey look to four-man collapse on this long lane. Weekend will get the kill. BaRRaCCuDDa low mana but full health. Has SOT rotated through, so maybe a bit of protect the president action here with Ducky jumping on in. And at this rate, maybe the move speed will just be enough to get them out. Lasbra close by as well. Could be a bait. Be careful here, Obey. Don't move yourself too far in. Looks like the tier 1 tower will be that line.
With 2 dead on the side of Renegades and Goldfury spawning in the next 15 seconds, Obey could very easily try and rotate in and sneak it away before we see any sort of response from Renegades.
Yep.
And that's going to get them exactly back into the game. And that's all off the back of Ducky's early rotation. That's exactly what you need when you have an aggressive solo laner on your squad. SOT can't match that rotation pace. He can't match the aggression that Camazotz is able to bring. And it gets Obey a pretty clean win.
BaRRaCCuDDa, the only one lurking by. Obey locks down the Fury. Watch out for the dropship in. BaRRaCCuDDa unable to make it away as Weekend will take him out of the sky. Lasbra is here to play, though, and Wlfy learns that one the hard way. Ducky, half HP, does have Bat Out of Hell, but what awaits on the other end? It's SOT who will look to move back in. Inbound will leap over and disarm just for a second. It is Fury locked down here by Obey, but you lose one member on either side as a result. And that's a win, maybe, here for Obey in the mid-game.
That's a net dub for the boys, especially considering Weekend immediately disengages from the Goldfury, says, all right, well, we're not going to win this fight. I might as well try and strip away as much farm as I can. He steals speed. He steals back camps. He might even steal this blue buff if Ven doesn't catch him out. That's clean play from Obey. I really like what we're seeing here. It seems like they've really got a game plan going forward. They know that Ducky has the aggressive rotation. They know that they can do what they need to if they get the numbers onto the duo side of the map, despite having a huge XP deficit between the hunters. This Obey roster are starting to look like they figured out a plan. They're getting a little bit of that identity.
And they'll need to figure that out a little bit quicker as Renegades will take away the Pyromancer. What level of concern? I mean, hit me with a 1 to 10, are you, that BaRRaCCuDDa is 4-1-2 with stacked Devos and a Rage waiting to be stacked as well. I mean, this is a Jing Wei that really starts to hurt, especially when you get to this point 16 minutes in.
I'm at a code red solid 8 on the worry meter. If I'm Obey, I'm looking at BaRRaCCuDDa, I'm saying, well, Wowie's 2 levels down, Rage is already stacked, Wowie's not even going to go into that stacking crit item. We can't let BaRRaCCuDDa get any more kills because that's going to be a raw power spike as well as he's just favored in the fight. So what are you going to do if you're Obey to shut down BaRRaCCuDDa? You either tell Wlfy to play safe, try and freeze the lane at your tier 2 since that tier 1's already been taken, or you send Weekend over there and continually try and aggress onto this Jing Wei. But it is a Jing Wei, the safest hunter in the game. She's got dashes, she's got the CC immune ultimate, beads and Aegis are still available, the warding's coming out. There's not much you can do to slow down BaRRaCCuDDa if he decides to just farm out safely. But it looks like Wlfy is willing to keep that wave at his tower, so maybe that does slow him down. But that also opens up the door for BaRRaCCuDDa to start rotating out.
And I feel like the writing has just kind of been on the wall. at least in the early game, continued long lane presence from Lasbra. Jake, well, being the player he is, continually finding engages on that Horus, so not surprising seeing BaRRaCCuDDa a little bit better off for it, and especially once that crit now maybe starts to come around, you wonder where Obey maybe start to look for some spectral armors. That tends to be the answer. I mean, it's obviously a value item in that there were a few games yesterday, Mifflin, where Spectral was built before any crit was on board just to try to dissuade it. Obey now realizing that Jing is 4-1-2, you might have to move into something like that a little earlier.
Spectral Armor would be a smart pickup, and it's especially good because we already have crit on the board for BaRRaCCuDDa. You're not building it to dissuade, you're building it to save your life at this point. And I would like to see it. If anyone's going to build Spectral, if anyone's going to stop BaRRaCCuDDa's reign of terror on this match, it's got to be Ducky. It's got to be Weekend, someone who can jump in and stick to this Jing Wei. That could happen, but BaRRaCCuDDa hasn't been rotating. The lane's been relatively frozen. I would like to see Obey maybe shift their focus over towards stopping SOT. They have very good kill potential despite it being a Nike, because it is a Camazotz and a Serqet. You can see the damage output already. That's just 2-1 from Ducky onto SOT, and it's already 20% of his health bar. Obey hasn't really been able to cleanly win a fight on the duo side of the map, and I think now more so than ever, it's time to stop heading over there. There's plenty of ways for them to get back into it, but it's really going to come to this next gold free. If Renegades aggresses around it, Obey's going to have to respond quickly and very hard. They got to shut down BaRRaCCuDDa. They can't let Jake get to the ties. There's so much that they have to be worried about because of this deficit that they're in.
Well, I think what we've often seen, kind of continuing on that build conversation, it tends to be kind of Devos into Rage, maybe looking like an Xe or King Size or something after that. Might get a little extra gold here. Weekend has blinked through. BaRRaCCuDDa taken back. Watch out for Lasbra. He'll drop down onto Weekend, but Weekend will be able to leap his way away. Inbound has gotten the kill. Wlfy makes it 2 now for Obey. It looked like an engagement the Renegades were happy with, but that is dashed by the wayside as Obey rotate through and find themselves a couple of kills.
Fantastic counter rotation from Obey. I love the play. Wlfy's been playing over there the entire game. Every time he sees Renegades move through the map, he follows them. They haven't turned on him, Renegades that is, so Wlfy's been able to rotate absolutely freely. Oh, Ducky's over there constantly as well. It seems like they're really going to dig their heels in deep and try and slow down BaRRaCCuDDa the hard way with true grit. And now they have a 2-member lead on this Gold Fury defense. They have the better positioning and the ward advantage. This could be the big swing.
This is a big one for Obey. SOT is in range. BaRRaCCuDDa was as well. That's a blink into the back line from Ducky. BaRRaCCuDDa doing his best to kite on backwards. The airstrike will do plenty good a job of that. SoloOrTroll was in range. Obey make no mistake of it this time, though. And I love this patience now that we see from Obey. Let's get the objective and get out alive and not gamble any of what we've just earned for ourselves.
Weak Nation, if you're in the chat, now's the time to start cheering the swan song of Kurt Schrey. This is the best position Obey's been in at the 20-minute mark, bar none. They've got 1,000 gold lead. They've got the objective positioning. Their XP deficit is in their favor, or not rather, it's 1,500 in favor of Renegades. But at that point, 20 minutes in, that's nearly nothing. Obey could very easily continue looking for picks or even play passively and let Renegades come to them. We've seen so far that Renegades are just going to continue engaging wherever they want to across the map. Wlfy's gone largely unchecked. This is looking really good for the boys in red.
In the game plan, you can already tell from Obey, even if the Gold Fury fight is any indication, BaRRaCCuDDa is scary. Let's jump on him immediately and we'll do the fighting elsewhere. Pyromancer started and finished by Obey. Another objective for Obey Alliance and another good disengage. So this lead continues to build, just around 1.7k gold now at the moment. Renegades not feeling dissuaded though. We'll keep the pressure up. Still plenty of objectives on the map for the Renegades to take. More recently, it's looking like this right side tier 1 tower will maybe tilt a little gold back for RNG. And there's a push from Lasbra in the middle lane, so objective controls over to Obey, but map presence right now, you get the vibe that Renegades are still feeling comfortable.
I'm worried about the 5-on-5 fight. We haven't truly seen one start from the neutral phase. Renegade's team fight is fantastic. They have engage tools out of Lasbra. They have counter-engage tools out of Jake and SOT. They've got plenty of ways to continue dealing aggressive damage. And SOT's passive, it's online now. That's additional movement speed. That's additional power. That's things you all have to worry about if you're on the side of Obey. But that's not to say that Obey is without tools. They have plenty of dive potential. If Weekend's able to find a fantastic target in BaRRaCCuDDa, or even engage on Lasbra before he goes to the skies, there's plenty of ways for them to find the picks before the fight starts and make it not a 5-on-5. Obey's comp is really lent towards a more pick-oriented team fight. They're looking to separate the fight and take it 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, even if it is grouped up around the Fire Giant. If Ducky's able to dive in and go uncontested as he has been, that could spell disaster for the Renegades.
Yep. And I think Ducky's played a lot of these fights well. A couple of assists on the board for him. You kind of bring up SOT's build, now adding in that winged blade, so he's got plenty of extra movement speed. He's going to be zooming, and that'll be great for him, especially when you've got Relic Dagger as well. With the teleport, you can split push, rotate if you need to, teleport on in, if that's the route you choose to go. Is there any level of concern, though? You have to give it to Obey. They've absolutely controlled this early game. I mean, kills technically for Renegades, but gold lead and objective control kind of inarguably over to Obey. Is there a scaling factor, though, between a Raijin, a Jing that maybe makes you a little bit cautious for Obey moving into this mid to late game?
Maybe not the individual god matchups, but it's certainly team fight cohesion. I have to give to Renegades. If they play as a 5-man death ball, it's going to be very hard for Obey to crack their way into it, especially considering their raw engagement factor, if they do have to take a straight-on 5-on-5 fight, is almost exclusively in Inbound, and that's a single target engage. That's a hammer. If he transforms, they have plenty of ways, Renegades that is, to really dissuade that. If he transforms in front of the enemy team, BaRRaCCuDDa drops the knockup, maybe Jake sits next to him, drops the knockup. That's unmitigatable CC that's going to have a ton of damage follow-up due to SOT's passive. I think Obey really have to get a little bit cheeky on the engagements. They have to start and split up the map, maybe even force a split push. Maybe Weekend takes a 1v1 against Lasbra if he tries to push out this long lane. There are plenty of ways that Obey can mitigate some of their losses in that team fight 5v5. But once Fire Giant starts their dance, it's going to be hard for Obey to really stop anything that Renegades are trying to do.
Could be a decent time now, actually. Weekend spotted out over in that long lane. Will start to rotate himself through. Pyromancer isn't up just yet, so both teams just kind of poising themselves for maybe an engagement. Awesome Jake as well, worth mentioning. Talaria boots, Relic Dagger on him as well. So you talk about these front lines looking for the engages for Renegades. They're going to catch up to most people, or most gods, on Obey's side. BaRRaCCuDDa has found an engagement against Ducky here, who wants to leap himself in, and it's BaRRaCCuDDa that's left a little bit worse for wear this time around. I think that's what we need to get used to seeing here. Ducky looking for the engage, as the tier 1 tower will now fall, but Jake playing aggressively, as is come to be expected, dashes forward and won't find much. But a good objective pickup now, as it's the Fury that's being rotated on.
Obey is looking so much more cohesive today. Even last week at this phase of the game, they were just meandering around the map, but now they force a fight around gold.
It's a good engagement by Jake. Down comes slamming Lasbra. Ducky has lost half of his health in the meantime. And look at SOT and Jake playing deep in the backlines, but they're all alone. Inbound is able to help out the rest of Obey to turn around the damage. 5 members strong still from Obey. If you're Renegades, you're missing Awesome Jake. Fury now being started up, pulled back by Obey. BaRRaCCuDDa engaged on, but shrugs that one off. Has to use the beads. Won't have that for the remainder of this fight. SOT gets plenty of shielding, my goodness, and will walk his way out of that one. Lasbra still deep in the backline now as well. Renegades just kind of going in one after one, and as a result, Obey are going to get another Fury in this game.
That's the issue. When Jake falls, the engagement factor from Renegades becomes a lot weaker. You really have to rely on SOT or Lasbra to find a dunk. Maybe Lasbra finds a 5-man slow. But without Jake, there's no true lockdown potential. And we see that they really fall apart around it. Obey really plays well around that fight. Every time Renegades move up, Obey resets the gold free, forces the fight in a defensive position, and does kind of instigate 1v1s across the map. Kind of like I was saying earlier, that's exactly what Obey needs to do. Split up the fight, take it at your own pace, wait for the Renegades to come to you, and that's what they're doing perfectly well. They take the mid tower, they move the fight over to Gold Fury, they win it there. Now, Renegades have to get something back on the map. Pyromancer's pulled, but the entirety of Obey is already there.
Rotation is there. BaRRaCCuDDa underneath the Pyromancer. Ducky will jump in, unable to steal it away, but maybe you steal the fight away with a kill onto BaRRa. And that's how this one starts, as Obey will continue a 5v4 advantage. Same as the Gold Fury fight. Now you're looking at this one over by the Pyromancer. A nice bounce there from Wowy. but continued patience, smart plays from Obey will back themselves off. But now you have to be concerned if you're the Renegades about this Fire Giant.
Renegades are still relatively healthy. The only ultimate consumed is SOTs. They could engage onto this. It looks like Obey is not willing to take it down to a who can confirm better fight. They're still looking to fight anyone that moves in, and that's what I like to see. But with Bobby transforming right now, the burn potential on this Fire Giant goes through the roof.
A little bit higher. Watch out for Lasbra. Might make his way into the back line alongside Awesome Jake. Down he crashes. Wowy catches the brunt of the damage. They haven't been able to finish him off. Instead, it's Weekend that turns this fight around. Lasbra takes a back seat. It's a 4v5 one more time. 3v5, rather, as BaRRaCCuDDa will be trying to come back from base. Has a little bit of extra fight rejoin potential, but Venenu has the opposite as Ducky has dashed his way in. Second kill of the game now for this Camazotz. SOT stunned down. SOT being burned away. The leap may save your life, but it's only for about half a second. A double kill from Ducky. This fight is put to bed, and Obey Alliance come out on top.
That entire engagement for Obey won off the back of Weekend's positioning. Lasbra dunks down, drops Wowy to about 1/10 HP. Weekend says, all right, bet, deletes Lasbra instantly, backs up, deletes Venenu as well, catches out SOT behind the blue buff. Everything there was off of Kurt Schrey. He's performing fantastic right now. This is the best he's looked all year. And now Obey have the defensive positioning around the Fire Giant. They could very easily look for it, force another fight, or even just confirm it themselves. The only ones really in position to defend right now are Jake and BaRRaCCuDDa. Lasbra's a little bit far away in base.
And Venenu is still dead, as well as SOT. Weekend will blink his way forward, grab a little bit of damage. BaRRaCCuDDa being sat on in these previous few fights. Yeah, the FG, that one got taken by Obey in the backline. Weekend is going to dash his way, maybe out to safety here. Lasbra will do the same with his ultimate. And it's a Fire Giant and still continued safety for Obey.
6,000 gold in the lead, Fire Giant on 5 members, and there's plenty of neutral objectives on the map for Obey to still take. This lead could very easily snowball itself into 10, 11, 12,000 gold without Obey even needing to move in towards a Phoenix. They're looking incredible. I don't know if you can hear the excitement in my voice, but Obey are really starting to look like a cohesive unit. I'm so impressed. They're playing the fight incredibly well despite drafting a team that isn't really lending itself towards a 5-on-5. Ducky's been able to control BaRRaCCuDDa on every single one of these fights. He's been able to force him out or even pick him onto the objectives. Things are really starting to work out for Obey. Their siege potential is also fantastic. If Bobby transforms before they move into the tower, he can give the underhanded tactics onto the enemy, coerce, whatever they need to do, and just completely blow up a tower. Frenzy's still available as well. They've got so many options. I don't think Renegades really do have a foot in the race to defend a tier 2. They might look to slow them down, but truly you can't really dig your heels in deep there.
Yeah, I'm not sure you can, and they're just going to forfeit this left side tier 1 tower with maybe lack of rotation. Fury up in 45 seconds, so that'll be there for Obey once this left side push concludes for them, and now maybe starting to rotate back. Do you have to be wary, though? I mean, think back to the conversation we had with scaling, where maybe on a god-by-god basis, we're not super concerned, but as far as team fighting goes, maybe there's a level of concern for Obey the longer this game goes on. So you're in an area now where you've gotten yourself the best start you've had in the SPL so far. Your foothold is complete and secure in this game. Let's continue to play smart and chip away some of these towers. No more towers in the long lane for Renegades. Soon to be no more towers once this mid tier 2 goes down. In the mid lane, Renegades, I'm not sure. I mean, you're still fighting against the full 5-stack Fire Giant team in Obey. I don't know how heavily you look to maybe defend. Awesome Jake, though, disagrees. Finds a little knock-up in the back line. SOT will jump in as well. The transformation from Inbound is there. Lasbra will crash down, find plenty of damage, and the kill onto Wlfy. The 3-4-man front line continues. Ratatoskr, that's a nice double for Lasbra. And that's Weekend now doing his best to even get 1 kill on Jake, and he's able to find it. A jump on out from Inbound, but is it enough to save his life? Ducky rejoins the fight to the tune of a kill now onto Venenu. Ducky, though, will take a back seat as a result of BaRRaCCuDDa being left alive, finally getting some stacks on that Rage, finally getting himself involved in some of these fights. BaRRaCCuDDa stays alive, but it's a 3-for-2 this time in favor of the Renegades.
That's exactly where Obey's last lead got stuffed as well. They meander around that tier 2 a little bit too long, and it allows Renegades to get defensive positioning. We already saw that Jake got behind the entirety of Obey Alliance. That's not where you want them. You either push into Jake and force him back to the rest of his team, or you separate a little bit so that their engagement factor wouldn't have been so strong, but instead Obey stick their heels in deep, sit in front of that tier 2. They take it away for themselves, but get picked off 3 for 2, and now Inbowned in a little bit of trouble as well.
Inbound is just trying to delay this Fury, and he was at least able to do that, but is it worth it if you end up dying in the meantime? I'm not so sure. That's going to be a heavy stagger just as the rest of Obey is back and respawning. Inbound will leap away. How much attention, though, can you pull away now, maybe, is the next question. If you're Inbound, could actually get out alive, and we'll have a leap off of cooldown here in a few more seconds, but the corner is in, and the leap is in as well, and actually Lasbra will use the ultimate, and he's going to continue aggressing, but look at this. This is what I was concerned about. Lasbra finally gets the kill onto Inbound, but it's pulled so much attention of the Renegades away. Obey, they'll take down the Oni Fury. How about the fight on the back end? BaRRaCCuDDa is here, and he's got some stacks on his Rage, so he's going to hurt plenty with that. And the Wind Demon as well. Weaken cannot participate due to a red health bar. It's a kill, yeah, on the Inbound, but you've lost the Oni Fury if you're the Renegades.
And Renegades were primed and ready to take it. They didn't have to be concerned about Inbound at all there. His steal potential is next to none compared to the damage output that Renegades had already stacked up onto it. Bobby plays really well there, drags the entirety of Renegades away from Oni, gets it for himself. Now that's global map pressure, as Renegades are going to have to be worried about contending with those waves. They get Pyromancer in return, but now no one's really moving up to clear out those waves. Fire Giants respawning. Obey should be able to get the defensive positioning and take another amicable fight.
Well, it's a Pyro now for the Renegades, just trying to claw something back here in game number 1. Worth mentioning, though, with BaRRaCCuDDa, I think it was, what, 12 to 15 minutes into this game, we said, hey, how concerned are you about BaRRaCCuDDa? He is 4-1-2, I think it was at the time. Now we've gone the next 15 minutes. The game time has doubled since our BaRRaCCuDDa check-in. He's only added 1 kill and a couple of assists. He's been sitting on that Rage now for about 15 minutes, and my point with all of this being, I think Obey, and we've maybe mentioned Ducky a decent amount, Obey, Weaken, the rest of the guys on Obey have done a great job of mitigating the early presence that BaRRaCCuDDa had, and they'll continue now to look for a fight underneath the right side tier 2 tower. Lasbra will engage, maybe, just trying to pick his time right, and instead it'll be a disengage. Another smart play, maybe back towards the FG, but watch out for Jake.
Yeah, Jake could easily fly in here, but he doesn't have the backup from his team. BaRRaCCuDDa is sitting healthy. This is not going to be an easy Fire Giant.
Ooh. BaRRaCCuDDa got locked down, but so did Weaken. Jake looking to finish off the kill. Who else but Ducky on top of BaRRaCCuDDa? No more Jing now as the Renegades are in full-on retreat mode. Jake will have to blink his way away, try to dash out of this fight, but won't be far enough as Wlfy will burn him on down. Lasbra might be a foregone conclusion. Will turn around to kill. Nice play from Laz, but it's only Weaken who ends up falling. 4 members versus 2. Obey in the advantage.
Ducky is playing so constantly aggressive against Renegade's carries, and it's kind of due to the build that he decided to go for. Brawler's Beat Stick online, Void Shield online, Heartseeker. He's essentially another assassin, but that added level of survivability of having a leap, having a CC immune ultimate that removes you from the playfield, means that he can play aggressive with this less tanky build, finds the immediately pick up in the Venenu.
No.
Now, SOT's on the back end, but what's he going to do into this Fire Giant push? He's the only one
I don't know.
alive.
You say that, but we've seen some nutty steals so far this year. Obey will not allow that to happen. SOT, the attempt was there, but Obey take away the Fire Giant. 35 minutes in, 10k gold in the lead. Fire Giant buff on 4 members. Only 1 tower remaining for the Renegades. This seems like it's Obey's game for the taking.
It really does. Obey is in the best position to take a map that we've seen the entirety of the year. But as Finch always says, the game does simplify a bit once we get to this defense on Phoenix Siege phase. And the defense from Renegades is pretty strong. Ben's going to have a very easy time keeping the minion wave out. Laz is going to be able to dive into the backline relatively for free. SOT is going to be able to frontline very easily as well with his shield. He's a little bit less tanky due to his movement speed centric build, but he's afforded that opportunity by the fact that he essentially has 2 health bars. And now BaRRaCCuDDa is going to have the safety of a Phoenix and the rest of his team around him at all times, so maybe Ducky has a little bit harder time diving onto him. The siege from Obey is strong if they can get that that offensive positioning, if they can get Bobby transformed a little bit early. If they even touch a Phoenix, they should be able to blow it up instantly. But getting through that wall that is Renegades is not going to be a light task.
Absolutely not. And it's Ducky now who sits at 6-1-5, picked up the Spectral Armor for himself because he's the one who's catching a lot of those auto attacks from BaRRaCCuDDa. So it just makes sense. Shrug off a little bit of extra crit damage. if you're Ducky. Now we're going to get our look at the Obey Alliance siege. They backed off, regrouped just a little bit. Fire Giant still with another 3.5 minutes on. Watch out for Jake, though. The dropship is there. You got to be kidding me. Renegades have found the back line. Lasbra is looking for the up and down it goes. But Aegis out by Wlfy. The collapse is in. Lasbra deletes the Merlin off the map, but Wowy will turn one around. Lasbra burned down now by Inbound. 3 members of Renegades suddenly on the retreat. Blink forward from Weekend. Back in goes Jake. And a double kill from Wowy will secure this fight for Obey. You still have got 3 members with the Fire Giant buff, and there are 3 people dead, Mifflin, on the Renegades for the next minute.
And the target the Renegades took was Wlfy. That's fantastic for stopping a team fight, but the team fight's over now. 3 dead on the side of Renegades, 40 seconds on the nearest spawn. 4 members completely healthy and strong on the side of Obey. They could easily go for the end here if Ducky could just zone off BaRRaCCuDDa.
Right.
This Titan could fall incredibly fast. It looks like they might be deciding to go towards that secondary Phoenix, but this is the best opportunity I think they're going to get.
Well, in go Obey. Sudden last-minute pivot now back to this mid-lane Phoenix. They'll be able to take it quickly. Wowy and Ducky both still alive. Venenu forced to dash away, and it is mid-lane Phoenix that ends up going down. It's only the Titans, don't worry, that are attacking the base. The Renegades will be able to easily clear those. Now let's turn our attention to this right side tower. There's a wave in the left lane that's now pushing in. Obey Alliance in a great spot. They're going to have now a 3rd open Phoenix. Still, what, 2 minutes left on this Fire Giant play.
I like it. If you are worried about throwing the game, you might as well play safe. This is the best position they've ever been in. Let's show a little bit of discipline. We are now, what, 15,000 gold in the lead. Fire Giant's going to be respawning in about 1:40, so that means they only have about 40 seconds on it for themselves. They could just play it safe, wait for this next Fire Giant. With the timing on those Phoenix downs, they don't have to be worried about it on the engagement. Those waves are going to be constantly pushing into Renegade's Titan room. Why risk it if you're Obey? You might as well continue doing what you've been doing, which is just winning every single fight that comes your way. Renegades show that they were worried about their defensive positioning around the Phoenix, so they try and engage outside of it, get the cheeky engagement while Ducky's still not grouped up with the team, but unfortunately their damage output wasn't quite enough. Obey stuffs that, finds 2 Phoenixes for themselves. Now 1 minute left on Fire Giant spawn. Renegades really don't have the time or resources to move in and try and defend that. They're just going to have to play around their Titan once more.
Now, I mean, this is totally devil's advocate because I think Obey have played fantastically up to this point. I mean, you are 3 members down on Renegades. Do you think it's too patient from Obey? I mean, do you think it's a high probability chance that they're able to end the game there if they just turn their eyes towards that Titan with only 3 members of the Renegades? One of them is BaRRaCCuDDa, to be fair, and he can turn around a fight underneath the Titan. But do you think Obey playing too cautiously now when, you know, they've got a great lead in front of them now 40 minutes into this game?
Yeah, I'm running my calculator right now, and it says that they had an 85% chance of straight up killing the Titan there. Let's think about it. BaRRaCCuDDa didn't have the ultimate available at all. He was also around 70% health, and Ven didn't have his ultimate either. When it's a 2v4, your mage doesn't have his insane teamfight ultimate, and BaRRaCCuDDa doesn't have the ability to just CC immune his way out of an engagement. Had Ducky found the damage, had Weekend taunted BaRRaCCuDDa, that could have instantly killed him, or they could just have one person zone out while the other 3 try and down that Titan. I think it could have been pretty easy for Obey, but at the same note, why risk it? You have the defensive position around Fire Giant. It's enhanced at this point. Might as well just take it.
Sure, I agree with that. I mean, it's a scenario of what ifs. Just curious if maybe the opening for Obey could have been there. Certainly was, but Obey, I think, continuing this smart play, some of the smartest play we've seen from Obey up to this point here in the SPL. Enhanced FG just respawning. Pyromancer taken down by Obey. There are fire minions crashing into the base of the Renegades as we speak. It's BaRRaCCuDDa who's sent back to deal with those, so the Hunter will be out of this fight just for a little bit. Maybe that's the opening now for Obey. Stun in on the SOT, but Awesome Jake is there to save the day. Inbound has now transformed Lasbra to re-engage. Will he find the backline? Yes, he does. Double knockup. One onto Wowy, one onto Wlfy. Wowy goes down, and it's BaRRaCCuDDa now that's under the eye of Ducky there, but Weekend ends up falling. Venenu's found himself a kill. SOT and Awesome Jake both low. Inbound playing frontline as maybe expect for Obey. 2 members down for Obey Alliance. Renegades lose Venenu in the mid lane, and it's Wowy and Weekend that end up falling. Couldn't have come a moment sooner. Half health now on your Titan thanks to the fire minions.
They are able to get back in time to stop the Titan from getting taken down by straight-up Minions, and the left Phoenix and mid Phoenix are going to be respawning. But with only 40 seconds left on the timer for Obey Alliance, I don't think that the Renegades are going to be confident moving into Fire Giant. They do reset the map to neutral, and this is what you're worried about when you're Obey not going for that end call when they did. Now that the map is neutral, and you've already seen that on a 5-on-5 fight, Obey has lost one for the first time in 42 minutes. It's gonna be rough getting this Fire Giant, getting these Phoenixes back down. You're gonna have to work through that entirety of effort that you'd already put in. And if Renegades decide to, they can group up around Fire, get the wards out right now, and force Obey to drop their wards early on this next rotation. They could very easily, Renegades, sneak in behind, do exactly what they did before, wait for Ducky to engage onto the backline on Ven and BaRRa, have Lasbra and SOT dive onto Obey's backline, and just have essentially a backline kill race, and whoever wins that is going to win the engagement.
Well, Ducky still stands only at 1 death, so he's 5-1-5 previously, now 7-1-6, so a couple of kills and an assist now added to Ducky's most recent streak here. We're at a state of equity in this game. All 10 players at level 20, all at completed builds, and it's now Renegades who look to engage. Wowy has taken too much damage, but Lasbra has found the kill onto Wlfy. Suddenly Wowy goes down as well. You have no more carries if you're Obeyed. Jake will try to make it one step worse, finds the lockdown onto Inbound, who will transform, but you don't gain health for doing that. Lasbra might be the sacrificial lamb here. Sometimes that's just your job. Ducky will swoop through, but it's 3 members down now for Obey. A brilliant fight, brilliant engagement from the Renegades.
50 seconds on the respawns. 3 members of Renegades are completely healthy. The one that isn't is your tank. They might look for the end here, show that maybe a little bit of brashness is needed to end out this match. 44 minutes in. I imagine they could look for it. They could also back up and take Fire Giant if they want to play safely, but no ultimates available on the side of Obey. This could very well be an end call.
Renegades may be feeling that way as well. Weekend hanging around the corner, has to blink defensively this time and will dash his way away as well. Titan under attack, but it's just SOT. Renegades have turned their eyes towards Weekend, who's now found his way towards BaRRaCCuDDa. Has a couple frontliners looking at him, but BaRRaCCuDDa puts Weekend in the dirt. Suddenly Ducky now is the one who's a bit out of position with 5 members of the Renegades sprinting at you. He's stunned down. He has no bat out of hell. He has no more time. SOT will find the kill, and that's got to be an FG call for the Renegades.
Weekend and Ducky do a good job just slowing down that Titan push. We saw that SOT wanted nothing more than to attack it, but they pull him away, force the fight. Yes, both of them fall for none, but they keep the Titan alive. Fire Giant now going to go the way of Renegades. They only have to work through 2 tier 2 towers to get to those Phoenixes. Now, what was an Obey all the way game is completely in Renegades' favor. They could just continue pushing, and now we see that this is where Renegades' comp is going to come to fruition. Their siege is immaculate. Ven's long-range artillery damage is going to be coming through, poking them out. The healing from Fire Giant is going to make sure that Renegades can just passively play the game. If Awesome Jake finds a knock-up on even 1 target, with 5 members of Renegades looking at him, that should be death no matter who it is. Now Obey have to defend 2 members down.
Here we go. Maybe a siege in this middle lane. Awesome Jake pop the ultimate, find the engage in the backline. Seen this time and time and time again. Lasbra will swoop through. Wowy gets deleted by Lasbra on the backside. My goodness, Obey. They've held control for so long. Inbound will retain it just a little bit longer. It's the mid lane Phoenix now down for Obey. Renegades limping away with 4 members. Obey defending with 4 members, but it's the mid lane Phoenix that ultimately falls in a 1-for-1 trade.
But look at Ducky hiding in the wings, trying to pick out Lasbra, but seems like it's going to turn on him.
Yeah, he's trying to swoop through now and get himself some kills. SOT a bit split off from the rest of the Renegades here. Venenu maybe coming to save the day. BaRRaCCuDDa with an open field for firing shots. Venenu getting in the kill column as well as BaRRaCCuDDa. SOT will up down. That is Weekend, the last member alive. Mifflin, the Titan might just be taken by the minions, and the Renegades are going to get it done in 46.5 minutes.
Renegades do a fantastic job playing into an uphill battle the entirety of the match. They really showed some true grit there as they tried to reflect engagement after engagement on their own Titan. But my heart goes out to Obey, so close to that golden apple, but 1 moment of hesitation is all it takes for one of these top-tier teams to just rip a dub straight out of your hands.
Yeah, you're wondering now if that hesitation maybe from Obey is a big turning point in this game. but better. I mean, it's week after week we keep saying this. It's only a matter of time before they finally take one of these games. They looked good for, 40 minutes of that game until the final 6 where the Renegades were able to swipe this one away. It was a blast of a game number 1, so we'll go back to Finch to let us know how it happened.
Dolson, you already nailed it, man. We know exactly how it happened. Obey, on the precipice of their first victory, chose to relent instead of all-inning on the Titan. And from there, Renegades never really looked back. It's a game of what-ifs, though. Would that have been enough to end the game or not? We'll never know. But Gormizer, how did you see it? I think Obey legitimately had a chance to end this game and instead left the door open for Renegades to make it back in.
It's always that question where hindsight is 20/20, right? I mean, you go back to that moment, and if you could change it, they absolutely go for the Titan there. And yeah, I mean, they had plenty of time before anyone was respawning. They could have forced that to come through. It's actually a good kind of representation. They had cleared out a lot of the towers. I believe there's 1 tier 2 left and right after they kill that left Phoenix. If you just pour into the Titan, it's going to be a little tanky, but you should be able to kill it fast enough. Versus when the Renegades first went in to try and kill the Obey Titan, and there were still 2 tier 2s up, 1 in mid, 1 in left. It was too tanky at that point for them to get aggressive. And it's those moments. You have to read the map, look at how healthy and tanky that Titan's going to be, and press your advantage.
They did need to press the advantage, but unfortunately they didn't win it. Anyone who was in chat, though, knows that I knew Renegades had that. I was never worried. Obviously, I'm joking. I was there. I was a part of all the energy. I wanted Obey to get that win, and they just couldn't hold on to it, Gormizer. I don't want to take too much away, though, from what was a really good game from Obey. They had a lot of great initiations, and what I think was that Renegades were a bit fractured here this game, and Obey were able to capitalize on that really, really well. They had a ton of damage from Wlfy in the backline. Ducky was a one-man army for most of that mid-game, mid to early late game. That was largely Ducky handling out in the Camazotz. They did a lot of things well.
I mean, the biggest thing they did, and a lot of the control came to jump to the backline. I mean, Venenu and BaRRaCCuDDa, for like 15 minutes there, it felt like they just couldn't play SMITE. And it was just because Ducky or Weekend would jump back there and deal with them, either by zoning them out or outright killing them. And it's actually kind of weird because you would think with Spectral Armor, Ducky would then be able to handle BaRRaCCuDDa a lot easier, but the team started playing around Barra a lot better, recognizing that's what Ducky was going for, and it just became more difficult to dive that backline. Renegades read the playbook that Obey kept doing, and after, the 10th time, they said, okay, look, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 10 times, then we have to change something around. We're going to save Barra, we're going to keep him alive, and it didn't always result in a kill onto Ducky, but it at least stopped their carry from getting taken out.
They did start finally grouping up, but I kind of want to be a bit more critical of Renegades here in this set if I can. Remember early on in this game, they were actually in the lead. They had maybe a 2 to 3K gold lead. There was some aggression from Awesome Jake and BaRRaCCuDDa over in the long lane, but didn't they end up sticking around way too long? Do you know a really easy way to know you've stuck around too long? Someone you killed earlier in that fight gets to respawn back and kill you later on. So that is what I'm talking about, where I think Renegades played a little bit too loose in this game 1, and they very nearly got burned by Obey.
I mean, I think there's kind of credit on both sides, right? Renegades maybe making some misplays, giving Obey their control. And Obey is just vast improvements from week to week, being able to lead them to, a game 1 that's longer than some of their first couple of weeks sets. So they've been able to turn things completely on its head. And while it doesn't result in a win, I actually think that's going to hurt them more than anything, right? Because Obey just put maybe everything out on the table. I mean, that was one of the most hard-fought games they've been a part of. It's only going to be more difficult now that you know that, man, we pushed it to 46 minutes and still couldn't grasp that W.
And because of that tough spot that they were in, where they weren't sure if they should try and go for the end or come back and grab Phoenixes, now it's filled with doubt, right? It's like, man, we were right there, and should we have gone for it? Would that have won? In the parallel universe where they go for it and maybe they don't win, now they're thinking, should we have backed up and played more safe? No matter what, I think there is this extra question around Obey now of, like, how do we close these games out? Maybe there is going to be some hesitation in their late-game shot calling now because they don't have that confidence built up. I think that might have potentially done more damage for them, that they couldn't find a way to close that game out.
I want to know what they're going to do to adapt. In my eyes, Camazotz should not be let through to obey this game. I think that
Ducky
was a
played
huge portion because Ducky was, I think it was said multiple times throughout the one, but kind of one-man army at a certain point where he's just able to flex on everybody. And I think if you can slow down the solo lane a little more, it makes it easier in that transition period where Obey is getting every single objective there for the Renegades to at least fight back. Last time, they couldn't do anything in terms of retaliation because Ducky would just say, okay, cool, step up to the plate and see what you can do. And the answer was never a lot.
No, they had a hard time trying to deal with Ducky, but it looks like the Camazotz not going to be banned here this time. In fact, these picks and bans look pretty similar to what we saw back in Game 1, so that means he might be in for another run back. Is there going to be a Horus first pick for Renegades? Well, that is what they first picked last time, and there it is yet again. They're going to lock in this Horus from Awesome Jake. And Gore, remember, even when they were losing, they were still making big plays with To the Skies, trying to dive them over in the long lane and see if maybe they could bring in the whole squad and make something happen. So they're still absolutely willing to play around this Horus ultimate, even when they're losing.
And I think that just showcases where Renegades are mentally more than anything. Hey, you know what? This fight, literally, this fight might lose us the game if we don't get what we need. Let's just dive and see what happens anyway. Lucky enough for them that Obey didn't press the issue and force the Titan to go down or anything like that. They didn't end up losing off of it. And, I mean, Horus is in their top 5. It kind of makes sense. The Horus, the Jing Hu Yi is also up there for them, but that duo lane is very high priority for Renegades. If you get Jake on something he's comfortable with, it's usually smooth sailing.
So far, though, Gore, we are running it back. It is the Horus of Renegades, and it's the Camazotz Merlin top picked here for Obey. So now the question sort of becomes, I wonder where we're going to see Renegades go. It's going to be the Jingwei pickup here again. We saw BaRRaCCuDDa play this last game and do pretty well on it, so no big question marks there. But where does, I think it's Obey that need to make some adjustments, right? Because if Renegades are playing a bit cleaner, I don't even know if we get to a 47-minute mark based on the way that early game was going. And it's a run back for SOT on the Nike with that big health build that he had for those fatty shields.
And just being able to come through, one of my favorite things I saw on Twitter during the game was just, SoloOrTroll, how many health items you got? I'll buy the stock. Just give me everything. Make sure that shield is big and I can stay in this fight. And it helped him out in a lot of instances. Granted, he was able to jump in. Sometimes he got burned down. My mind goes, though, to the Fire Giant steal attempt from him, where you could have dropped everything on him in that instant. I don't think the shield would have disappeared, let alone the health bar behind it. So he was in a good position to just go in and be the front line that the team needed if Horus wasn't available.
Well, let's see. Last time Renegades were worried about the support pickup, so they banned away the Yamoja, even though Obey didn't really want the Yamoja in that spot here. Maybe Renegades will have learned from that. Maybe Renegades let it through this time, and Obey do grab it up. It was the Serqet, I think, that Obey took in this very next pick there for them. But Renegades adapting this time. They'll take away that Fafnir that Inbound played and try and make them go a little bit further down that list for a support.
I wonder if they maybe want to... It depends on, do you want to knock off more support options, or do you want to maybe target weaken with at least one of these as well? I mean, bopping off Serqet would probably save you a little bit of pressure in the backline. Her mobility kept letting weaken jump into the back, harass BaRRaCCuDDa, and then get out alive most of the time. Sometimes with 1 kill, sometimes with 2 kills, and then sometimes just knowing that you're not going to be in the fight anymore. But either way, it was almost always a win for Weaken jumping back there. And so he could potentially just run it back here.
Yeah, they're not going to ban it away. The difference here for Renegades is I think they top-picked the Raijin in those first 3 bans last time, and this time they still haven't picked it, but it also hasn't been banned, and Obey already have their mid-made, so it's pretty likely if Renegades still want to take that towards the bottom end of the draft, they can. There's the Serqet in the same spot for Obey. It's just they're going to do something different for support this time with that Fafnir and the Yamoja banned out. Plus, we still don't know where Renegades are going to go with their mid lane.
And I kind of like this from Obey. They were able to handle Renegades early on last time. I think you change a couple of shot calls, which are things that are in-game, not necessarily out of game, and maybe it goes different. So being able to just say, you know what, it wasn't the gods, it wasn't how we played, it was just a couple of calls that we made that we need to shift up. Let's just run back the 4 because we know we're going to be doing well with them, and maybe read the scenarios a little better this time around.
So it'll be the Nuwa. I think that's the only change up here for Renegades is the Nuwa instead of the Raijin, the Wrath, the Nike, the Jingwei, and the Horus all worked well for them. And I'm a bit surprised. I do think Vin had an underwhelming game number 1, so I'm not upset that they're choosing to change it up. But I am just a bit surprised that Nuwa is the route they're going. She does have some safety, some nice close-range damage. What do you think, Gord? Do you like the Nuwa here?
My mind is this is Venenu saying, all right, dive on me, see what happens when 3 clay minions get detonated in your face, because that's almost all he's going to be able to do. If Serqet jumps on him, if Camazotz jumps on him, it's a stun, it's a huge amount of burst, but I'm looking at level 20. You have to make it there first. It's going to be difficult to maybe ramp it up, but she is a little safer as a mage, so maybe it's that long con play for them where she can use that utility to then set up someone like the Jing or the Ratatoskr and just keep herself safe.
It's the Terra to round out the draft here for Obey, so some slightly different looks, but a lot of the same here in game number 2.
Well, it's, I suppose, what, 6/8 of a salty run back here, Mifflin, for Renegades and Obey. 4 out of 5 gods on either team, the same as they were in game number 1. Now it's time to look at what was changed here. I mean, remember the oppression that the Renegades were able to put on this long lane. A lot of it born out of this. Some rotations, largely Lasbra, though, in game number 1. This time it'll be SOT starting off over here by the purple buff. Inbound taken low, so no first blood just yet. But it's more of the same. Kind of. I mean, when you think of 6 out of the 8 gods being the same and the start here from the Renegades, not much has changed.
The only changes being the Terra pickup for Obey, which trades out a little bit of their pick potential, trades out a little bit of their objective burn, but makes up for it in spades with team fight potential. And Ven saying, alright, well, I'm sick of getting dove by Ducky, so let me drop clay minions on its face and try and stun him out, ult away myself. There's a lot that is the same, but generally, how team fights are going to roll out is almost completely different. But game 1, second verse, same as the first. Lasbra are going to steal away that purple buff at level 1.
An inbound taken low. I mean, we could have tossed on the replay from game number 1 and wouldn't have surprised me here with what we're seeing from game number 2. I am curious now, though, if BaRRaCCuDDa, or Ducky, rather. I mean, really one of the two. I mean, remember, that was such a big dynamic. It was Ducky just jumping on BaRRaCCuDDa constantly over and over and over again in game 1. For good reason, you limited what BaRRaCCuDDa was able to do. But by the end of the road, you know, it didn't quite matter as Renegades were able to take game number 1. Do you see changes of playstyles now, maybe, for BaRRaCCuDDa, for Ducky? In a game like this where you have more of the same, do you expect the same to be somewhat different, if that makes sense? Or do you think BaRRaCCuDDa's fine with how game 1 went?
Well, I think you're exactly right to say that BaRRaCCuDDa is fine as he dives in on Inbound now. He's going to fall low. Lasbra finds the first blood, and that's a little bit of the same from game 1. Again, this is the exact same start that we saw from Renegades. It's whether or not they can keep that aggression and not throw it away like they did against Obey in the last match with some of the counter rotations. I expect we'll see Lasbra shift his focus towards mid, make sure that Wlfy doesn't get off to the same insane start that he did last match. I think we'll see more of the same from Ducky. He's playing Camazotz into SOT's Nike, which means that he's not going to be under any duress in that lane. He's going to be able to farm up, rotate out, and dive onto these carries. If BaRRaCCuDDa doesn't get off to the same start as he did last game with a 3-level lead, it's going to be a lot harder for him to deal with Ducky.
Well, he's a third of the way there now with a 1-level lead over Wowy and an assist on the first blood. But in kind of a weird way, I mean, maybe you make the argument that that's worse now for Obey with Lasbra getting that first blood. I mean, red buff now under some duress. It's the same sort of style from what we saw from Lasbra in game number 1. Put a coin in the same jar, I suppose, up to this point, 3 minutes in. Obey, though, I will say, when you look at Obey, the kind of gripe we've had is not having an identity, changing too much up, so I don't mind them going back to something that worked through the first, 30 minutes of the game, save 5 on the end and 5 on the end, 5 on the beginning and 5 on the end. So I will say, for Obey, it's a refreshing change, maybe, to see that they found something that seems to work for them.
It certainly is. I had a hard time listening to you as I got exact deja vu vibes. Renegades steal the first purple, lose the second steal against Obey. Now the defense is on. The objectives are reset to neutral. Now Obey has timer on every single one of their buffs, despite Renegades' strange start that we've been seeing them develop throughout the weeks. I like what we see from Obey. If we want to take it to an incredible macro view, in the late game, Renegades' siege defense is a lot stronger, but their literal siege is a lot weaker, whereas Obey's defense and offense are a little bit stronger in that siege phase. So it's going to be interesting to see where this goes in the late game. For now, it seems like both teams are very comfortable playing a little bit more passively than we saw in the last match. Just farm it up and get ready for the rotations out of solo.
Yeah, and that was kind of the next sort of thought maybe where my mind went. There was, effectively nothing happening in that solo lane, and Ducky was still able to rotate over and really impact a lot of the fights in that mid to early late game. I almost wonder now, though, if you're Lasbra, you realize that Ducky's going to be able to do that again, whether he's even or ahead. I wonder now maybe Lasbra's feeling we have to put him behind to maybe help out BaRRaCCuDDa.
The issue with that is Lasbra's gank potential into Camazotz with SOT on a Nike is incredibly low. The second he dunks down from the skies, what's Ducky gonna do? Either fight into it because he's Camazotz, or bat out of hell, walk away because he's Camazotz. He's got plenty of ways to play that lane, and I don't think worrying about it's on his radar.
That's a nice double knock up there from Awesome Jake, and not sure how Renegades, or how far rather, Renegades will look to chase this one, and not that far seems to be the answer. There are 4 members of Obey rotating in, and Venenu on the new wall will rotate through as well. It's another purple buff steal from the Renegades, as nothing is safe here, apparently, for Obey. Venenu will pop the ultimate and farm a little bit of damage. But an overemphasis really on this long lane continues from the Renegades. No purple buff is safe, no red buff is safe. You always have to be concerned about Lasbra kind of hanging out around that corner.
And the emphasis on the long lane is not a coincidence. It's completely because they drafted to leave SOT on an island. They're just waiting for him to get his passive online. They're not concerned with him dying, and they shouldn't be. Dual lane, on the other hand, is going to be highly contentious.
Yeah, and we see a lot of this. Jake going in, dashing out, healing up BaRRaCCuDDa, and neither team really worse for wear on the back end of it. Slight change up, though, for SOT, probably worth mentioning. Remember, went move speed somewhat heavily, Teleria boots into Relic Dagger, Wing Blade. A little bit different this time, not opting for those Teleria boots. A little sad, though. I liked seeing Nike kind of zoom around the map. But SOT maybe realizing that an alternative start seems to be the way to go.
I like this shift in attention from Weekend. He's not really hovering around his own jungle waiting for the engagement from Renegades. He realizes that in a 2-on-2 fight, if he's able to drag Lasbra over to solo, they, Obey, are incredibly favored. They're not going to be able to kill SOT, but if anyone tries to rotate in and defend the blue buff, Camazotz and Serqet can stop just about anyone else from living.
True. It's Awesome Jake now that has to be concerned about living. Wowy will break the Suns, and Awesome Jake will catch him. Obey Alliance strike back, just like game number 1. We are tied up here kill-wise, effectively even gold-wise. This time, though, Wowy not quite as behind as he was. Remember, so many of the early game kills onto the Renegades. Now Wowy is able to strike for one on his own. There's a route down onto BaRRaCCuDDa, who will be able to jump and dash away. Weekend rotating over as well. Maybe a little bit of extra confidence as small engagement in the solo lane. SOT has to drop the ultimate. That might just be what saves his life there as Ducky decides not to pursue it any further. So when it's all said and done, some fireworks, some sparks, but it's only 1 kill. But it is Wowy now who evens up the score.
Now that SOT's ultimate's down, we've already seen that Weekend's willing to pay attention to the short lane. That's high kill potential. That's a Camazotz and a Serqet running at a Nike that has only 1 escape maneuver, which is her leap. And we already see Weekend start to rotate over towards that soul lane. This is exactly what you need to see from him. Abuse the fact that that tool is no longer available. And Ducky already bring the fight to him.
Wow, you're smart, Mifflin, aren't you? Stunned down onto SOT. That's the leap, but that's the counter leap and dash from 2 members of Obey. SOT will bring up the shield, but seems like a fruitless endeavor and just going to try to farm up a little bit extra here. Who gets the kill? It's Ducky this time around. And talk about worst case scenario for the Renegades. Ducky was a problem when even in the early game, and now he's got a kill.
He's got a kill. He's going to get an enemy blue buff stripped away, maybe. Nope, it's already Lasbra over there, clearing it for himself, making sure that it doesn't get too bad for the soul laner on Obey. But that's about all you can expect for gank potential there. It's going to be on whether or not Ducky can force that ultimate again off of SOT if we see Weekend rotate over. But now that Ducky has a lead, Weekend can shift his focus over to this long lane, because it seems like Renegades are taking a different approach. It's not going to be as aggressive as we saw last game, because they don't have the same lead. Instead, they're freezing at their tier 1, which is going to open up the entirety of Obey to a gank themselves, because they have to move up a little bit further to get their farm.
A little bit more brutal for SOT. Didn't have teleport. Actually had just used teleport prior to that gank, seemingly, so had to take the long way now back to lane. Curious to see where this puts Ducky's confidence, though, now in this game. Obviously feeling good, probably with his individual performance after game number 1. You wonder now, though, when the rotations start to come out, maybe Ducky starts to rotate a little bit earlier. Neither solo laner has teleport, so maybe if these Fury fights start happening, it won't be for a little while. Lasbra will have to take up to the branch. That's an important now shift, maybe, Mifflin, with Lasbra effectively out of the fight for the next little bit.
Now that Renegades don't have that ult on Ratatoskr, they don't have any way to really win a fight in that duo 2-on-2. Weekend forces out that ultimate incredibly well, doesn't have to use his own in return either, which means that there's insane gank potential if they want to look to siege this red buff. Jake tries to go to the skies, cess it out, but unfortunately, all the buffs are already dead. Lasbra's nowhere to be seen because his ultimate's down. Ducky's already putting aggression into that long or short lane. This is exactly what I love to see.
Jake is stunned down, and he's going to be taken down as well. There's some long lane presence from Obey, and that's another kill for Obey Alliance. This time, it's going to go over to Inbound, I believe it was, and Awesome Jake will take now another seat for the second time this game. A different look, though, for Obey. They're starting to bring a little bit more of that presence over to the long lane. They've gotten themselves about a 1,000 gold lead, whereas it was a little bit more back and forth up to this point. Remember, Renegades had themselves a bit of a wider lead at this point in game number 1. Lasbra might learn the hard way that Ducky hurts with a kill. Bat out of hell strikes 2 out of 3, but Ducky didn't need all of it as he'll be able to bounce back and forth. Lasbra now down. Ducky this second of the game.
Imagine giving Ducky Camazotz 2 games in a row with the performance that we saw last match. Imagine rotating into that man's lane with no ultimate. Lasbra gets put in the dirt instantly. What was already a small lead for Ducky is only getting larger. It's starting to get a little bit scary for SOT to sit over there. The gank potential is so high. Wowy now under duress.
BaRRaCCuDDa will plug some shots over into Wowy. The rotation from Wlfy was there. It was the Fury being looked at, but actually pretty deep ward coverage, really, from both teams on the opposite team side of the jungle. Obey with some good red buff coverage. Renegades have a little bit of the same over on this Gold Fury side, so it won't be without knowing when that Gold Fury is rotated over to. But I like this look of Obey. Now they're starting to not feel super, I don't know, cautious isn't the right word that I'm really looking for there, but they're starting to get some confidence, I think, putting pressure on this Fury, putting pressure on this long lane, and it's paying off. Though Ducky has 2 of the kills, the other 2 are on the support and on the hunter.
I think this response from Obey is really that they have adapted to Renegade's style here. Renegades showed last match that they're really only putting their money in the bank that is duo lane. They're not really worried about fighting out in the mid lane. They're not really worried about keeping SOT up afloat. So what does Obey do? They say, well, if we don't really want to fight it out in duo, let's take the fight where Renegades aren't going to be. So they start to put the pressure onto this short lane. They start to move their pressure towards these neutral objectives in mid. And now they're going to take this Pyromancer because they know Renegades are going to keep playing around this duo.
I will say, though, I mean, while it's, you know, similarities and differences seem to be what the thread is here in game number 2, another similarity is that Obey has kind of felt comfortable around a lot of these objectives. Take another early Pyromancer. The Furies were largely for Obey throughout most of that game, so at least that much has not changed here. We have reached a point, though, where you start to look towards solo lane rotations, another topic we've sort of touched on, but SOT has no teleport, Ducky does. SOT doesn't have any kills, Ducky has 2. You want to talk about extending a lead? In my opinion, it's next time a big fight brings out, what can Ducky do with the teleport under his belt?
Not only to teleport in the level lead, but take a peek at the itemization between the 2 soul laners. SOT goes more utility, Breastplate of Valor, a Cudgel, whereas what is Ducky doing? He wants to fight. It looks like it could be either a Runic Shield or on Chile, but he's already got the Glad Shield online. If both soul laners rotate out right now for a fight around Gold Fury, Obey is going to be the complete beneficiary as Ducky's going to have way more dive potential. This pick, Nike, she really doesn't come online until her passive does, and that's going to be around the 20-minute mark. 22 minutes is when you're going to start to see some real effort coming out of that passive. The movement speed and power come online for Renegades. Until then, Nike's really just a sitting duck pick.
Well, just survive, says SOT. Maybe you've got another, maybe 8 minutes by Mifflin's estimations to get there. Wowy will be under duress as Awesome Jake has found his way into the back line, but the rest of Renegades are there to follow. Wowy deleted by BaRRaCCuDDa and the other 2 members of the Renegades that are there. Inbound will dash through, and BaRRaCCuDDa is somewhat low. Or Inbound, rather, somewhat low as Wlfy rotates over from the mid lane. Weekend and Venenu now doing battle over by the Gold Fury side. It's a stun down onto Inbound. Can BaRRaCCuDDa find another? Yes, he can. Second of the game in a span of about 15 seconds in the Jing way. Now starting to hit for the Renegades.
It's a clean double pick, but Lasbra's dropped pretty low on the health bar. Renegades could look to try and force another fight around this Gold Fury, knowing that Ducky is playing at the proxy role between those towers. They don't have to worry about that rotation. It seems like that's what they're going to do. Should be relatively uncontested. The only one really in position to stop it is Weekend.
And he's not going to do much with it, and Wlfy as well is going to try to chase out Jake, but notice the mana bar not full enough to really cast much there. So while Obey Alliance have been in control of this one, after First Blood, it's been all Obey through and through. Now the Renegades find themselves a nice soft double for BaRRaCCuDDa, who swings 2 kills. Gold brought right back to even. XP still a little bit on Obey's side, though. That's about 2K there. But by all metrics outside of XP, Mifflin, we're brought right back to even.
Completely even, I'd say. Renegades take what was a slight hill to climb and just flattens it out completely. Now, 15 minutes in, we're at a state of equity, but that Lasbra pick on the Ratatoskr is going to bring so much more global pressure. Having forced out the blink from Weekend means that his engagement is going to be a little bit weaker. No more shell available on Inbound means that it's going to open up the rotation path into duo. And last but certainly not least, Wowy's beads are down, which means that really all he has is a leap and Aegis to stop himself from falling to Lasbra. I imagine we'll see Renegades continue the pressure into that duo lane despite the fact that Gold Fury's already been taken.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point there. And a bit of a change-up, though, in game 2 that seems so similar to game number 1, as BaRRaCCuDDa won't move right into that rage following the Devourer's Gauntlet. Will be the Executioner here. I don't mind that switch-up. I mean, you know, with the way Ducky played, Spectral Armor just kind of leaping on BaRRaCCuDDa over and over and over in game number 1, I think the move to sort of that pen build is maybe not too far off here for BaRRa.
No, it certainly is in direct response to Ducky's play last match, and we see already it's going to come to fruition earlier on. Ducky's got 2 physical defense items online already, but taking that crit trade-off, despite the fact that Obey has 4 incredibly squishy targets in the late game, means that overall BaRRaCCuDDa's damage output is going to be slightly lower, but its survivability is going to go way higher, as Ducky's going to have a harder time diving.
Well, just now, as we bring up, he's not building crit yet. He being BaRRaCCuDDa will snag at least the tier 1 in that crit tree, so not completely moving away from it. I suppose maybe that's what we were seeing earlier on, you know, during SEC qualifiers, things like that, the gauntlet into the Xe, and then eventually a rage or something in the crit tree a little bit later on. So BaRRaCCuDDa certainly won't be without it, not for a little bit longer. But I think, you know, on the flip side of this coin, Wowy has done a good job of not dying quite as much. Now, can we say the same as Awesome Jake is rotating behind him? I'm not so sure. Wowy will try to move himself away, and the up and over he goes. Look at how much damage BaRRaCCuDDa is pouring into him. Obey, though, will rotate through. That's to the skies used. Lasbra will drop down and get some damage onto Wowy, with Jake playing Gate Guardian here in the opening in the jungle. A slight collapse onto the backline, as you expect from Ducky, who will swoop through. Bat out of the hell, only needs 2 taps to get rid of the Ratatoskr. BaRRaCCuDDa finds a crit, but it's just not enough to get rid of Wowy here in this fight. Weekend, though, catches 1 more crit from BaRRaCCuDDa before trading out thanks to the DOT. A 2-for-1 trade in favor of Obey could get worse now for the Renegades as Awesome Jake is low. Wlfy has no mana, though, so be careful here trying to re-engage. SOT, plenty of tanky, has some shielding as well. Up, down, he goes. Merlin back to the gray screen. A 2-for-2 trade. The fight continues, and now it's Ducky who might be under some duress.
Both solo laners play that fight immaculately. SOT finds a solo pick for himself, as does Ducky onto Lasbra. But who's the beneficiary of the fight? I would have to say Obey come out slightly ahead. They get the high priority target in BaRRaCCuDDa. They get the high priority target into Lasbra. Yes, you trade out Weekend and Wlfy, but that's honestly not the worst case scenario, considering that Weekend's already a level up, so he's not going to lose out too much there. And Lasbra falls himself, which means that he's not going to be farming up while Weekend's dead. Overall, it's probably a net gain 0 for both teams, but Renegades get the jump on the Pyromancer.
Still holding on to a slight gold lead here. Pyromancer could be a big fighting point. Renegades able to take that one away thanks to some heavy damage from BaRRaCCuDDa, and that tier 2 crit item has been critting a little bit more often than not, it seems. RNG is in their name after all, and SOT will try to continue the aggression here. Inbound, disarmed, but able to escape. Rotation not there from Wlfy just yet, but won't be too much. Now it's Renegades who are playing kind of that patient, let's take what we can get, let's not bite off too much, and keep this game in our favor as they have themselves about a 1K gold lead.
Just about 1K in favor of them. The next real fight will likely erupt around this Gold Fury again, and that's where we're going to see a large shift in dynamic. If Renegades take it, they're immediately going to get a huge XP boon. They're likely going to be able to get a tier 1 tower off the tail end of it. If Obey take it, it's going to completely even out the game again.
Well, Weekend will dash through, and Ducky will try to execute once more with a bat out of hell. Third tap isn't enough to do it, but the echo is, as Ducky will find his 4th kill of the game now. And it's over onto SOT for the 2nd time. There was a counter rotation from Lasbra. But Ducky's one to now start worrying about, I think, if you're the Renegades here, building a little bit more into that bruisery tanky side, as you point out. BaRRaCCuDDa at 3-1-1, I think's got to be worried for what's just over the horizon in some of these fights.
Ducky does take a slight shift in his build this game, instead going for a more bruiser build, as you pointed out. No Heartseeker this time. Brawlers hasn't come online either, so his damage output is overall lower, but his dive potential is through the roof. Obey going to be able to take this gold free uncontested. SoloOrTroll's already dead. Wow. No one really wants to move in at a deficit. Now Obey even out the game completely, but that removes that objective from that side of the map. Obey's already shown that they're favored fighting elsewhere. They can start rotating in and look at this mid tower. They can start looking at this tier 1 in the solo lane. And their siege is strong if they group up as 5. Weekend should be able to play around the side of the map, try and pick out anyone that rotates in from the Renegades. Ducky going to be an absolute menace in Renegades backline. And now Inbound, now on Terra instead of Fafnir, is going to have way better engage.
I'm curious how these teams start to play things a little bit differently, though. I mean, dead even through 21 minutes. Will that make a difference? Not for Awesome Jake and BaRRaCCuDDa over in the long lane. That's a dash forward, so won't be able to disengage. If there were some re-engagements, or some rotations maybe rather, for Obey, there weren't. But Inbound takes just so much damage from BaRRaCCuDDa. Now has that Rage online, so BaRRaCCuDDa not completely moving away from the crit build here in game number 2. But all else equal, I mean, you touched on it there a little bit. Remember when Renegades were able to kind of finally equalize game number 1? Was it sort of their comp, you think, that gave them the advantage there, or just better shot calling? And with all else held equal, who are you more excited about here about 22 minutes in?
If this game continues on this exact same trajectory as far as team fight potential goes, I have to give the slight edge to Obey Alliance, as they have so much cohesion. They've got the AoE Mage inside of Merlin. They've got the Terra ultimate as well as Engage. If they take the fight to 5v5 in the jungle or around a tower, they should be favored, and it seems like they know it as they move into tier 1 and mid.
Hey, that's a tower, and that's also maybe a fight for Obey. It's Ducky. Where else but in the backline, and it's tier 1 tower that will be chipped away and eventually fall. So, full 5-man fight, not there, but Jake maybe looking to re-engage. He's just in front of Wlfy and will make his way in with SOT in tow. Ducky now has Venenu and BaRRaCCuDDa looking at him, so there's not much damage in the front line of this fight for the Renegades. Jake taken very low, nice junk down from Lasbra, catches down onto 3. Some shielding chipped away by Venenu. Underneath the tier 1 tower goes Awesome Jake. SOT is certainly there as well. Somehow, no kills yet in this one. With how low Wowy is, he's got to have 1 HP at this point. He's left alive, and it's still 5 men strong for the Renegades. Inbound now maybe a little bit caught out as the rotation from the backside was there. Swooping through is Ducky. Where will the 3rd charge go? Well, it's down onto BaRRaCCuDDa, but it's the tier 2 tower that eventually falls.
I would love to know exactly how much health Wowy had there. Oh, just got it in from production. Exactly 4 HP he lived with. That's insanely unlucky for Ven there. But overall, Renegades take it head over heels. They take the tier 1, they take the tier 2, trade out no lives, only really getting their own tier 1 taken in retaliation. But now that they have to back up, it gives Obey defensive positioning around this Pyromancer as it respawns. We'll see how it goes.
That's Weekend on the front line. BaRRaCCuDDa, a touch caught out, a nice double stun there. Looking like maybe from one of the front liners. First kill in this fight goes for Venenu. BaRRaCCuDDa chipping away at Ducky on the back line. Double kill for SOT. The Nike starting to swing here. Ducky doesn't have the cooldowns, but SOT has a triple. He's trying to move in. He's looking for 4. BaRRaCCuDDa takes it away, but it's a near clean sweep for the Renegades. And they might just go right down the mid lane.
They've got 40 seconds on the nearest spawn. The only one that's truly there to stop any aggression is Inbound. With 3 towers left up, 30 seconds on a respawn, this could be another early attempt at an end. They've got plenty of time. Their damage output is good. Force strong and healthy. If this Phoenix falls in a timely manner, they could go for it. It doesn't look like it's going to go down quick enough. They might have to back up to Fire Giant after this.
Well, BaRRaCCuDDa is the one who suddenly starts tanking. Looks like he did just too much damage to Inbound there. Mid lane Phoenix does end up falling. Now you look at the death timers, 10, 5, interchangeable somewhere in there for Obey, so they're going to be fully reinforced. But now you've got a mid lane to worry about on the defensive side if you're Obey, and I think the Renegades have to be playing with a higher level of confidence and maybe contesting or even starting up this Fire Giant.
With all the relics down on the side of Renegades, maybe they do look for the fight and force it around this fire instead of actually going for the objective themselves. But either way, they're favored. They've got Lasbra pushing out the opposite side of the map, and he's got a semi-global so he can rotate into the fight as quickly as he needs to.
Was SOT's fresh off a triple, so obviously feeling confident enough maybe for the rest of the Renegades. Pyromancer started up by Obey, taken low, and Obey will finish it up. So a small win there for the Chaos side of this map. They're going to back themselves off. It's a tale as old as time. One team takes the Pyro, backs away, and then maybe we start up Fire Giant. It's Weekend, though, rotating over to help out contesting with Lasbra here, who will spot out the contest, and Venenu will toss out the Nuwa ultimate as well. So a bit of a split push here, though, Mifflin, and without having Lasbra, Renegades maybe not considering starting up a full-blown FG. Maybe a full-blown fight, though, as Awesome Jake moves into the backline. BaRRaCCuDDa is going to knock down some damage onto Ducky, who isn't feeling so clear to move on in. Lasbra from the tree branch will slam on down. Wowy ends up falling, and Wlfy does as well. No more carries now for Obey Alliance. Tier 2 tower is suddenly gone. 3 members left defending against 5 strong for the Renegades.
Bobby gets caught on a lazy back between his Phoenixes as well. Ducky, no ultimate available, so which means he won't be able to dive the backline nearly as easy. Renegades send over Lasbra to force someone to back. He uses the semi-global ultimate to win the fight because where's Weekend trying to stop a push that isn't happening anymore? Renegades primed and ready, looking at the door of the Titan.
They're not shying away. They want to take this 5v3, and they're going to get some good damage to boot. Lasbra will sun down onto Inbound. One more shot from BaRRaCCuDDa is all they maybe needed. Venenu ends up getting rid of Weekend nonetheless. It's Titan down to half HP. Ducky desperately trying to stop the Renegades, but it won't be enough. The Renegades will swing twice in a row, this time a little bit quicker, and they'll take the set 2-0 over Obey.
We say it after every single one of Obey's sets, and it still rings true. The rate of improvement from these guys is insane. And I've been talking to Bobby Inbound backstage a little bit, and he's been telling me that once they move in with their new jungler, they've been fragging out in scrims. You have to keep in mind that even though they're playing with Weekend this week, they haven't been practicing with them at all, and they still take up to the completely competitive games against Renegades. Obey might be a roster to look out for in the near future.
Good, but not enough. Seems to be a theme here for Obey, and Renegades continuing their hot streak. Remember, they took down Radiance 2-1 earlier on here, so they're going to continue their win streak with a nice 2-0 win over Obey here today. That's it for Mifflin and I here on set number 1. We'll go back to Finch to break it down.
Obey get close a couple of times, but it is not enough for them to find their first win. Instead, they end up dropping to Renegades. But as you heard the casters saying just now, I think Obey are showing us signs of improvement here throughout each of these games. They just got to show us a bit more once they have that new jungler on the roster, and maybe they can start turning things around. I still have Gore with me here on the desk. And Gore, this game did end a lot sooner. What was the big difference here for Renegades in able to close this game out a lot faster than that last?
A lot of it, actually, to me, seemed to be when they started grouping up and kind of playing as 5, especially in the last few minutes. It was just so much more difficult for someone like Ducky to do what he had been doing for the first half of that game, where he was kind of tearing through individuals or having a really good gank. The last half, Renegades were a group. They were together. I mean, it's hard to pick off BaRRa. It's the same thing that won them the first game. They just did it about, 20 minutes earlier.
Yeah, they were able to start fighting much more as a unit. SoloOrTroll had a great game, a triple kill over near the Fire Giant. Never hurts, right, as he finds that play to help turn things around. Really what we were seeing here from the Renegades is I think that they just buckled down here in this game number 2, Gormizer, for me. I mean, I think a lot of the same stuff that worked for Obey in that game 1 didn't quite work here because the Renegades tightened up a little bit. They didn't get quite as out of control as we had seen from them before. Obey got an early lead, but they couldn't transition into the mid to late nearly as well this time.
Exactly, and a lot of that, I mean, if you look at it, is where was Weekend's impact? I mean, 6,000 damage, just barely so, under 10,000 for both Inbound and Wowy as well. The jungle impact wasn't anywhere near the same as it was last game, and kind of, I would say, consequently, BaRRaCCuDDa was able to just continue pelting long-range damage from the backline. Venenu, 26,000 is nothing to scoff at. I mean, 4,000 higher than the next highest on in the game. And it's the amount of damage that Renegades were able to get off, I don't want to say for free, because it wasn't for free, but being able to throw it out without having much to give up in the process, it just helped them immensely.
And you can tell from the way these replays are going, BaRRaCCuDDa were active in the early game. They had a lot of good things going for them, but I think part of the problem was that Renegades had too many different ways to engage that BaRRaCCuDDa couldn't deal with. It could be SOT going in first and slowing everyone with that ultimate, or it could have been Lasbra dunking down, or it could have been Awesome Jake with his ult. They did a really good job of kind of disguising their initiations, you know what I mean? I mean, they would make it look like it was just Awesome Jake or SoloOrTroll, and then suddenly Lasbra shows up for the dunk, and Venenu has the fire charge from long range, or whatever order it is that works for you. They kind of disguised it against BaRRaCCuDDa, and I think BaRRaCCuDDa got baited a couple times into fights that they actually weren't favored.
And when you look at these last few replays, especially the late game ones, it's important to see who are the first couple that are dying. And every time I looked over at BaRRaCCuDDa, the jungle, the mid, they're all gone. Most of the damage they have that could be available to them to maybe open that door and create an avenue to deal with the Renegades was gone. And I think that's just really good prioritization from the Renegades more than anything. They recognized where the threat was, and maybe kind of took the grain of salt that, hey, we're not going to kill Ducky in 2 seconds, guys. We can kill that mid laner with a couple of hits, though. And so shifting their attention to the easy-to-kill targets and then scooping up the rest of BaRRaCCuDDa in the process.
Taking a look at your updated standings after those first 7 games. That's enough games to have played everyone else in the league once. BaRRaCCuDda still sitting at 0-7. Remember, though, they've got a roster change coming through, so maybe things will look better for them beyond. Everyone else, though, within 2 games of each other, Gora. I don't know that we have ever seen parity quite like this. Number 7, the 7th place team in the league, is 3-4, just barely under 500. That is how close right now it is between all these squads.
And the fact that there's only 2 teams left to play that last game, the Sanguine Radiance match is that last one to get the full 7 across the board. It just kind of blows my mind because, I mean, Rival, we've seen take some big wins, we've seen take some big losses. SSG, you can have seen take big wins, big losses. Renegades, they just beat Radiance. You never know what's going to happen. I think this team, Renegades specifically, has been doing nothing but improving, but the entire league is just as strong.
It is, man. I mean, part of the reason why BaRRaCCuDDa are 0-7 right now is because there's no weak links. Everybody that they've played up against is really, really top tier Gormizer. So I don't hold it against those guys at all. It's just been a tough start for them to try and figure everything out. But over on the other side of Renegades, where things are going well, BaRRaCCuDDa, John Salter is standing by for the interview.
Thank you, Finch. BaRRaCCuDDa with me after a big win over BaRRaCCuDDa. How's it going today, BaRRaCCuDDa? Got to be riding high after a 2-0 week here for you guys.
Pretty good. I feel way better about the Radiance wins than I do about the BaRRaCCuDDa games.
Sure.
Because our BaRRaCCuDDa set was kind of a fiesta. I feel like we played really poorly. I feel like they played really well, not taking anything away from them, but I feel like we played really poorly. We were just all over the place, and it showed really obviously to everyone watching.
Now, I'm curious. I mean, kind of aggression, really great rotations from Lasbra towards that long lane. Kind of game 1 and game 2. That was a thread we were able to follow. How much of a hand did you personally have in that decision-making to kind of get yourself fed and pretty strong there in back-to-back games?
It honestly wasn't on me. Vin came up with the whole strategy for our start and everything. And in the beginning, Laz wasn't ganking that much, like when he first joined the team.
Right.
And I think we have been influencing his style to be a more ganking jungler and a more pressure jungler. And I think it's been working out really well for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I think Lasbra's had a standout performance up to this point. Quick thoughts, though. I mean, we've seen kind of you and Jake start to grow and be closer together. Was it your clip where the cat was, like, wailing her way down the hallway, I think, a few months ago? So love to see it. Hopefully she'll stay quiet for the interview. What's it been like playing with Jake, though, and growing and getting better with him?
Jake's been amazing sometimes. Sometimes he'll just end, and I'm like, nice, Jake, this is just perfect. And then there's, like, in scrims and ranked, I was talking about on my stream, he...
Is there catnip in the toy or what?
I'm sorry. It's back to Jake. He'll just int in scrims and ranks sometimes, and then once SPL comes around, he's full tryhard, 100% focused, and he's a real pleasure to play with, honestly, because he changes the way I play, and he makes me go for plays that I wouldn't normally go for. And I don't know, he's just like, he's very vocal in SPL, and just, he's like, all right, we're holding W, like literally in game 2 at the end. It was like 25 minutes. He was like, we're holding W, dive the tower. And me and Venenu are just like, all right, we're taking this Horus ult into tier 2. Let's see what happens. Like, and then we win the game off of it. And he did the same thing on Faf against Radiance. He just held W. He knew like BMT's beads were down, and he's just making plays that I don't think other sports would be making.
Sure. Controlling that aggression will be the theme now moving forward for you guys. Always a pleasure, BaRRaCCuDDa. Congrats on the 2-0 week here for you guys, and best of luck in the future.
Thank you.